I, Peter Burns, would like to apologize to KJ Jefferson, to the Arkansas Razorbacks. I didn't think they were going to be able to stretch the field, have success against this Aggie defense. Woo, pig whooping, 20-10. Hogs get it done.
What a perfect script, too. You get some big plays early. You build a 17-point lead for your defense. You let them go out there and suffocate A&M's offense, and you run the football to bleed time off the clock. I thought it was well played, well designed, and well executed by Sam Pittman's team.
How about this defense right now and what Barry Odom was dialing up? When they brought pressure to Zach Calzada, he just flat out couldn't handle it. 2 of 14. And I don't think that pressures are necessarily the issue is so much on Zach, whether it's the offensive line.
The offensive line can't protect. They can't run the football to take pressure off of Zach Calzada. The receivers don't separate. A number of times you saw some coverage sacks where he just didn't have anywhere to go with the football. So it's a complete offensive issue at this point in time for A&M.
I mean, I want to talk about the positive part. This was a team that was 4-20. They were 0-16 back to in 2 years in SEC play, and Sam Pittman has brought them up like a phoenix from the ashes, right? And he's done it a bunch of different ways. But what I saw them answering the bell, KJ Jefferson stretching the field, him trying to come back out there after getting a little bit banged up. Treylon Burks,
he was unstoppable for the first probably 20 minutes of the game.
He was great. And again, this Arkansas team right now reminds me of, and remember in March Madness, you always have that kind of mid-major team that has a bunch of fifth-year guys that they don't care who the hell is on the other side of the court, that they're going to just dominate and they're going to ruin your bracket, and the whole country falls in love with them.
Emotionally mature. They go out there and handle their business. Like, it's a really fun team to watch. Now, with that being said, I do have concerns this week, but we'll get into that later in the show.
Of course, they're going to be on the road in Athens. College Game Day will be there, taking on the second-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who absolutely crushed
the best team
Vandy.
In the country, by the way.
I do believe that to be the case. Coming in at number 2 on my elites. Elites leading? Is that what I should do? Is leading a word?
Verb?
Can you do it?
I don't know if you can use it as a verb.
But that's what I saw, right? I think there's 2 elite teams in college football. I think that's Alabama and Georgia. And I feel like you can kind of flip them, although I do lean a little bit more towards Georgia being the most complete team in the country. But Bama did what they needed to do against Southern Miss. They looked great offensively, and defensively they were solid as well. And then Georgia gets better each and every week. They found a way on these injuries to look at other players, right? Brock Bowers has stepped up. The defense is just 85 Bears-like. I mean, they just survive and advance, and they keep leading. I still want to see if that's a word.
We'll check it after the show. At number 1, it's the biggest storyline of the season so far. It's the woo pig whooping that they put on the Texas A&M Aggies. Absolutely smothering defensively. Had some big plays early in the game to give them a 17-point lead, and then they were able to run the football. How about KJ Jefferson as well, too? Coming back after injuring his knee a little bit, came in, finished the game with a big Cam third down type run to run through a tackler to get to the line to gain. Just a lot of fun to watch this team, to watch where they've come from, to watch the way they celebrate with their coach, and the overall culture that's been created in Fayetteville.
Is this America's team?
It is. It's America's team.
I think
the rest of the team, the rest of the country is figuring it out. Yeah. We've had a little bit of a head start here with what we've known from Sam Pittman last year, but I think the rest of the country is having a lot of fun with this underdog story.
I mean, we saw, and it was really cool too, Dave Van Horn, great baseball coach for the Razorbacks. We saw Eric Musselman. They made the road trip, and that's something that we've seen Arkansas athletics just really be incredible. Hunter Yurchek has done a great job at that facility. A great city to live in. That fan base deserves something like this, and I love how everybody's understanding, Grant Morgan, Bumper Pool, Sam Pittman, the job that he's done. And I think that's great because what it's allowed for is more coaches and more athletic directors to hire, not the same old retread coaches, and say there's a blueprint now to have some success, and they're showing that.
As a business owner, I know you want to hire people that are not only talented but fit in culturally. Yeah. And I think that Sam Pittman certainly fits the culture of that part of the country, understands it very well, and he's been embraced by that fan base and been embraced by the team, the players on that roster that he didn't recruit, that he inherited.
If I would have told you 2 years ago that College Game Day could go to anywhere they wanted to, and yet they want to pick an Arkansas football game, no way. And it's going to be a fantastic matchup there in Athens coming up over on Saturday noon kickoff. You can follow this man on Twitter at Grant Morgan, who I believe already has 2 degrees from the Arkansas Razorback stud. Is one of them an accounting grant? Because you might have to learn how to pay taxes now that you guys own the state of Texas on the actual state. Do you actually claim that on your tax return or what?
No, I don't claim it, but it's I guess it's a figure of speech now that I'm going to claim forever.
Yeah, I mean, Rice, Texas A&M. I mean, what does that mean to this program right now in Fayetteville?
Yeah, it means a lot. Like, to see where we've come from and to see what we're doing now, to be able to say you beat both those Texas teams and Rice including, like, that's not something you would have told an Arkansas team 2 years ago and they would have believed. So for us to have this belief in Coach Pittman and the guys we have on this team is something that we'll believe anything now.
You gave credit to Coach Pittman. I'm curious, like, do you ever just go to his office and talk with him? Like, if you have a bad day, bounce stuff off of him. I'm interested, like, what's the relationship like individually between you and Coach Pittman?
Yeah, our relationship is really close. He talks to me about random stuff. I go up there and just kind of cut up with him. The one thing that he does is we instill that this facility is a working facility. It doesn't matter if you have a bad day or a great day. Like, you have to be the same person every day when you come in here, and that's just what we expect. That's what we expect from him. So why would he not expect that from us? But he's the same guy. I tell this to everybody. He's the easiest person to talk about. He's the same guy to y'all as he is to us. He's the same guy as us as he is to the fans. He's the most genuine person I've ever met. He's not hiding something behind closed doors where we don't know what he's doing that next day. We know exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what we're doing, just because that's the type of place we want Arkansas to be.
You know, Grant, we talk so much about the transfer portal and immediate eligibility and guys, just saying, hey, I want to go somewhere different. There was a lot of guys that had that opportunity, especially even with COVID last year, that said, I want to come back. What was that recruiting pitch, not only from the coaches, but maybe more importantly, you and the other leaders about this special team that was brewing?
Yeah, there was no pitch for me. What I did is I saw exactly what he could do. I saw his potential. I saw what type of guy he was, and that's how he's recruiting. He's showing kids what he is, what type of man he is, who he is around his family, who he is around us. And kids, you can see, as 120 players on a team, you can see when a coach is kind of faking something, or you can see at least one of them will see something that doesn't fit. And when you have 120 guys staring at you every single day, and not a single one of us sees anything wrong, then you got a good guy, especially in Coach Pittman. As a recruiting point right now, we're winning football games. We're in the top 10. Why would you not want to come to Arkansas? We're the NFL team in Arkansas, in the state of Arkansas. So it's hard not to play for a team like this, where you have 3.2 million people wanting to be an Arkansas Razorback, and us being that person.
Grant, we were showing a minute ago some of the highlights of your defense on Saturday against Texas A&M. The defense, you turn on the tape, it's fun to watch. You guys are well coached. You fly to the football. You got 4 or 5 jerseys around the ball at any given time. You arrive with some bad intentions. Like, you guys, the heart and soul of that defense is that linebacker group. And no offense, but you guys are complete psychopaths. I want to know, what is that meeting room like? What's it like amongst the linebacker group yourselves?
It is a full-out competition. That's exactly what it is. We're so competitive in our friend group with me, Bumper, and Hayden. We will compete in pool. We'll compete in lining up who can write our name faster. We're so competitive that we're racing to the football every single play. We call it a race to the football. Who can get there first? Who can punish the running back or the quarterback first? But at the end of the day, like, our meetings, they're just like you would think. We like to have fun, but we get our jobs done. We worry about it. Coach Shea, our linebacker coach, does a really good job. This is his first year being a linebacker coach. You would have never expected that. Just the way he coaches us, the veteran leadership that he shows. You can tell he's been there before because he played for Coach Odom in this system at Missouri. So it's really fun. This linebacker core is not something that we didn't expect, because we do practice like this. We play like this. We're pissed off, and we love showing up to the ball pissed off.
You guys, you mentioned Coach Odom. I'm glad you did, because from the get-go when he took over last year, you play with great technique. Your alignment is tremendous. You execute your assignments. He played the same position. Like, do you guys ever throw on tape of him and critique his play, like when he was at Missouri?
No. And I feel like that would go bad for us if we did. He'd probably hound like a dog on everything if we started doing that. We find pictures of him and we joke with him and stuff about how tall his pads were. We found out the other day that him and Tom Brady are the same age, and we said, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you keep playing?" So it's funny. But no, we haven't given him too much crap yet.
Grant, your brother Drew was a great receiver in this conference at Arkansas 5 or 6 years ago. One of my favorite guys to watch. You know, I'm interested what it was like for you being in high school, watching him play at Arkansas, and then at the same time, like having to follow in his footsteps, both at your high school and now at Arkansas.
Yeah, watching him was awesome. Watching him show me what to do, pretty much. We like to say he paved a road. I'm just driving on it, but I took my own path. I tried to go and do my own thing. So whenever I got here, I walked on. He came in on scholarship, so it's different that way. Mm-hmm. I had to earn it. I had to be able to grow and be able to kind of show exactly why I should be here. So whenever we got there, and Drew, I played with him for a year. I redshirted while he was senior year, and just being able to see how he led the team and his energy just spread throughout the team, and that was a good football team. So I had to be able to see and take what was those older guys were doing. So, and then whenever I got my chance, I just had to run with it. It's exciting. It's great to be able to be from a football family and to be able to watch how he did it and how I can do it and how I can do it better.
I love the mentality to walk on to All-American, but you're as humble as can be. And so, you know, name, image, and likeness plays a monster role, right? We see Bryce Young and all these guys getting these monster deals. How has it affected the day-to-day student-athlete life? Like, how many deals do you work with right now, and who are they, and how do you manage that with a great season going on?
Yeah, so the first thing I did is when I heard of this NIL was going to be able to come out is I knew I had to get an agent. So I've been talking to a couple agents throughout this time just because I planned on going pro. And I knew which one was a good fit, so I went with OTG Agency, working with their marketing. And Sarah, she does a lot of stuff for me where she can be able to talk to these companies while I can focus on football. So what we do is I've been contacted by 50 or 60 different companies, and so we've signed from about 15 to 20, and we've categorized it to where it's only about 3 or 4 each grouping. And so what we do is I just kind of do the easy part, and I show up where they want me to. It's kind of like I'm living an NFL life. I show up where I want me to, I sign what they want me to, and then Sarah does all the hard work for me. But I think with this NFL stuff, you got to figure out what type of culture you want as a team. If you want to come here and play NIL, then Arkansas is not the place for you. And I know a lot of the big schools aren't the place for you. You came here to play football, and that's what's first, especially here at Arkansas. We're playing football. We came here to play football. So I think it's going to be a culture shock in college football, but I think it's going to be if you have a coach who leads right and a coach who instills a good culture, then NIL shouldn't be a problem at all.
Maybe the hottest team in the country right now, and or maybe the only thing better than Arkansas football is Arkansas football's Twitter account and the social media team. They're doing a great job having some fun with it. Grant, stay healthy. Y'all keep kicking ass and stay pissed off because it's working out pretty well for you, all right?
Yes, and Sam Pittman calls for respect. Respect. That was a good song. After a win by A&M, I don't think you have to call for it, Coach. You got it. But it doesn't get any easier. You beat 2 of your biggest rivals, and you get to go to the number 2 team in the country. In case you haven't heard, Arkansas playing the noon game between the hedges this Saturday. Some of the differentials are there. Meanwhile, Kirby Smart challenges Georgia fans to be elite for the Arkansas game. I'm not really sure what that means. What about it, Kirby?
Advantage we can have is can our crowd impact the game at 12:01 like they could at 8:01, and that's the challenge that's issued to our fans to prep for that and to be able to help us because we got this game at home, so that's supposed to be an advantage, and we got to try to make it an advantage because the teams that play at home have across the board this year more than last year with packed stadiums have had some kind of advantage, at least crowd noise wise.
Thank you, Professor Kirby Smart.
Yeah, first off, Barry does an incredible job. Barry is one of the few people that you can say he takes what he has and he gets what he has to work really well. So, like, he's been different at different places. He's not been the same guy everywhere he's been. He's morphed, he's changed with college football. He's innovative. He goes and looks and studies what other people are doing. He forces your hand to maybe play left-handed, where you can't do some of the things you want to do. He's really good at it. And not only that, he's got some really good players doing it. Make no mistake about it. This is not the Arkansas that we played last year. Okay, those guys up front, he's got 3 transfers, 2 from Missouri, 1 from Illinois State, and they play extremely hard, and they're extremely physical, and they create an immense amount of problems for the people they play. And, they will not be taken lightly by this group. I'm of the opinion a good football coach that is willing to sacrifice his own ego and say, if I can go out and hire people smarter than me and people that are really good coaches, and I'm going to have a hell of a staff and not make it about myself, then you got a chance to be successful. Now, you got to recruit, and you got to recruit well, because nobody does real well without good football players. And I think that's a big part of that role. But Sam fits all that. He's a tremendous leader of men, and that's the number one discipline we're charged with. How do you lead your men, and how much do they believe in you? And that, he's got the ultimate right now going on. He's got either 8 or 9 super seniors. 8 or 9 super seniors makes a big difference, guys. I mean, you're talking about those are Schaefer's and Devontae Wyatt's, 2 of our better, more experienced players. You multiply that times 4, and they got that. And they got 16-something seniors. They got 7 or 8 returning starters on both sides of the ball. I mean, you don't see that in the SEC. And I told people before the season started, write it down. Team with senior leadership, team with experience, team with the most seniors always does well in our conference. And no doubt they're doing the same here.
Well, we're sure looking forward to going back to Georgia. The people of Georgia were so kind to Jamie and I when we were there for 4 years. And Kirby and obviously have a lot of good memories about him and the way he treated me and the staff, the camaraderie with the staff. And they've got an outstanding football team, and I think everybody knows that. Very physical, play extremely hard, obviously well coached, and but we're looking forward to going over there and seeing where our team is this week, and we're excited about it.
Coach, any update on how KJ's feeling? He's got to be pretty sore, I guess, and Traylon also.
Yeah, he's sore. Traylon's sore. Obviously we played some good football teams and physical games, but I think both of them will be fine. They may or may not be able to go full speed today, but I don't think it'll be a problem for the game.
Georgia lost 7 starters on defense, so they're Georgia, so they're going to be good. But you assume that they'll take a dip. It looks like they're better than ever. What are you seeing from their defense, and why do you think they're so good after filling so many holes?
Well, their D-line, they have so much talent on the D-line, and certainly are big, physical. It starts with Davis and Carter, and Nolan Smith and Walker, and they're very, very talented. They rotate guys as well, so they keep them fresh, and then you go back and the linebacker, and they have Quay Walker and Dean and Brini, and they can run. They've recruited really well there, and so they're going to have depth, and that's just Georgia, and hopefully Arkansas will get that way here soon in the near future, where somebody leaves and the next guy steps in. He may be as good, he may be better than the guy that left, but that's where Georgia is, and that's a credit to their staff and Kirby for recruiting.
We welcome all of you back, and it is just an absolute pleasure to welcome Jalen Catalon to the program, one of the big stars of this Arkansas Razorback team on the defensive side of the ball. And Jalen, first of all, I know it never gets old to have people pat you on the back and congratulate you, but it has been pretty amazing for all of us fans to watch what you guys have done this year. How does it feel inside that locker room?
The energy is great right now. I think we have the confidence right now that we need, and we just got to keep it going. Don't get ahead of ourselves for sure. I think everybody in the locker room knows the ending goal we want to have. So like I said, each week we're just trying to be 1-0. So we're glad we pulled out a great win against A&M, and we're on to Georgia now.
If we could just back up for 1 second, I want to get to Georgia, but I felt the energy a couple weeks ago when we did our show out in Fayetteville for the Texas game. You won that game, and everyone couldn't believe it. And then you go to Arlington and beat A&M, which has been such a problem for the Razorback program. I know it's a stepping stone. You mentioned 1-0, but how much confidence do you guys have now, having beaten some pretty impressive teams so far?
The confidence is high right now for this team, for sure. You know, when you go out and go 4-0 against great teams like A&M and you beat Texas, I mean, why wouldn't your confidence be high? But then at the same time, we remember what it was like when we were at the bottom, and now that people are talking about us, you know, we want to keep that going. You know, we want to just, like I said, just keep pushing forward with the same attitude and mindset that Coach Pittman instilled in this football team, from the offensive side to the defensive side. So I think if we just keep that same mindset and just prepare like we always do, I mean, we can keep going and do this thing. So I'm just excited for this weekend.
Jalen, you mentioned Sam Pittman, and I want to get to him in a second, but I think we'd all be remiss if we didn't talk about the defensive coordinator for a couple of moments here, Barry Odom. We've all gotten to know him over the years, and you know, many are pointing to him as arguably the best defensive coordinator in the whole country right now. I know that's a loaded question for one of his star players, but describe what it's like playing for him.
Playing for him is I can't even describe it honestly. I mean, just the way he attacks things, his energy every single week is unmatched. You know, every single day he's ready to go, and doesn't matter what the circumstances is, he's ready to get after it. And like I said, that's always something I respected about him. And you know, he's a consistent guy. What you see from him is what you're going to get. You're never going to get anything different. And the plans that he has for us each week is just the way he comes up with things. I mean, it's unmatched. So I'm just glad he's our DC, because not only a great coach, but I mean, he's a great person as well. And he likes to talk to guys, make sure everybody's good to go mentally and physically. So I'm excited that he's our DC this year.
And Jalen, let's talk about the man everybody's talking about in college football, and that's Sam Pittman. I mean, I know he's a tough coach, but, you know, it's hard for us to – I mean, every time I see him, I feel like he's – you know, you want to hug him, and he's like a teddy bear. He's not always that nice, is he?
No, for sure. Every coach has their bad side. You know, every once in a while, you know, he'll get on us, you know, let us know what's up, you know, for the for the better of the team, you know. But I always say with the criticism comes the praise. He always says, you know, as much as he's going to criticize us, he's going to definitely praise us. So when something good happened, he's definitely going to let us know about it. But just like any coach, when you do something bad, you know, he's going to let you hear it. But, I mean, I think he has a great balance for our team, and that's what makes him a great head coach and a great fit for his team, is because he's able to balance that, give us the criticism we need, but also give us the praise that some guys need at times. So, like I said, I think he's the best coach in the country, if you ask me, and I'm just glad he's ours.
Jalen, well, he's well on his way to winning the Best Coach in the Country award if things continue. Well, let me just ask you about how things changed, because a couple of years ago, Arkansas was trying to win a conference game. It had been a couple of years since they won one. Last year was just trying to get some continuity. This year, I thought a bowl game would have been really nice. A bowl game almost seems like going under the radar at the moment. What is this team capable of right now?
Coach said we always had a saying, we're all we got, we all we need, you know. We all we got, we all we need. That's all we have to say to each other. So if we have that same attitude going into everything, we believe we can accomplish anything. And I know in the past years, you know, it wasn't what Arkansas wanted to be at. But now that we're in a spot where we're 4-0, you know, Coach always says, you know, it's the same way you can handle adversity, the same way you'll handle success. You know, are you going to take it and be complacent with it, or are you going to take it and take it head on, you know? So I think the way this team is right now and the mindset that we have now under Pittman, I don't see anything different than us just going out and just preparing, just trying to win one game at a time, you know? And I think we keep that same mindset, like I said before. I mean, like I said, we can just keep this train rolling for sure. But I mean, it's been a great ride so far with the teammates and the coaches, and I'm just glad I'm a part of it.
Well, let's talk about this week, because we're talking about one of the premier games again in the country, just like last week was, going to Georgia. You guys have seen them on film. You're familiar with them. Coach Pittman used to work there. What does this game mean to you and your program?
It means a lot. it's like I said, it's one of the big games in college football once again. Like I said, Georgia's a great team. They have great coaching staff. They have great players on the other side. And like I said last week, we have great players on our side as well, along with coaches. So when you put that together, you get a physical and great game. So I expect nothing more than that. And I'm trusting what Coach Odom has for us, like always, on the defensive side. I know Brow's taking care of the offensive side. I know Pittman's going to instill the right plan for us going into this game. Since he's coached there, he knows the personnel there for sure. So, like I said, it should be a physical game. It's going to be a great game. I'm just excited to see the environment and just go out there and play the game that we love.
Well, we will be watching noon Eastern, of course, on ESPN. Jalen Catalon, thank you so much for making time. I know it's crazy right now with everybody clinging at you, but we really enjoyed having you on. All the very, very best.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
This weekend featured an act of dominance that we found, frankly, unprecedented in the SEC. That would be Georgia scoring 35 in the first quarter against Vanderbilt on their way to a 62-0 victory on the Commodores' home turf in Nashville. Richard.
Yeah, Spencer, we got some friends in the desert that thought Georgia was going to win this game by 34.5 points. They, as you said, took care of that by the end of the first quarter. There was just nothing Vanderbilt could do. I mean, when you've got defensive linemen like Georgia's got, you can only hide and hope. So we're going to take a look at the box score in a little bit of a different way. Mm-hmm. What we want to do today is just pick out some of the most eye-popping stuff and rank it in order.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. We thought we would hold you in suspense, maybe go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Absolutely not.
No. We need to get directly to
give them the good stuff first.
The most impressive thing. Go ahead, set me up here. Alley to the oop. That is 8 TDs versus 4 first downs allowed. The best way I can explain it is this. Georgia, baking cakes, scoring 8 TDs in the game. Vanderbilt, they cracked 4 eggs. While Georgia was making 8 cakes, 4 eggs cracked by Vandy. What do you got, number 2?
All right, give me another. JT Daniels, 98.8 QBR is number 2. By the way, that's not like regular quarterback rating where it's out of 150. No. That's on a 1 to 100 scale, folks.
Yeah, that is an insane number. I mean, you know what? Go ahead and for number 3, give me led 35-0 after 1 quarter, okay? Because I know that everybody manages to get in the second half, put in some subs, take a little bit of time off, right? 35-0, that puts you on pace to win 140-0 if you keep that pace.
Vanderbilt, 3 yards on a cloud of dust. How about 1.7 yards per play allowed for the Dogs? 1.7 yards per play. That's
a long day. And you know what? Go ahead and give me the 455-yard margin. 455. I want you to consider that's a good day for one team, and Georgia managed to stack that on top of what it did on top of their performance against Vanderbilt. That is bonkers. That is a layer cake of dominance, Richard.
Yeah, this really shows that from snap to snap, whistle to whistle, Georgia's backups wanted to get it in as well, and that is a hungry amount of dogs.
Your thoughts on Arkansas at Georgia?
Well, that'll be a war, won't it, Paul? I mean, that's one where it's like, hey, man, give me a couple chin straps, give me a couple mouthpieces, and let's go have a day. And that's kind of what I think Sam Pittman wants. If you ask Sam Pittman, I think any game that's decided along the line of scrimmage is a game that he is totally in favor of. Now, does Arkansas have the firepower? And I think that's the real question mark, because right now, let's call Georgia what they are. They're a juggernaut. And I know that it was Vanderbilt. I know they've lit it up against subpar competition. And we now know that their best win of the year, Clemson, is not maybe what we thought it was. So I think Georgia, however, when you just watch them, and don't focus on who they're playing against, look at the level of execution that they have, not just offensively, but defensively as well. That's an all-star team right now, and they're playing at a level that really nobody else in the country is playing at. So I think Arkansas is clearly going to have their hands full. I think their front four can do a good enough job of creating some problems for that offensive line. Their front three, most cases, is actually what you're going to see from Arkansas defensively. The question for me, Paul, is if you can expose or at least limit Arkansas's run game, and you can keep KJ Jefferson, you can keep those talented running backs in check for the most part. Right now, all I've seen from Arkansas is one super dynamic playmaker on the perimeter, and that's Treylon Burks. Now, he's amazing. He's a great player, and I'm so glad to see that he's back to himself these last 2 weeks. But I think Georgia can put 2 guys on him and still kind of keep Arkansas's run game in check. Now, I think Arkansas can win the game. I really believe that. But they're going to have to be flawless, and Georgia's going to have to make a couple mistakes. So it should be a fascinating matchup. I think if the game were in Fayetteville, Arkansas would have a better chance. But I think Georgia is the more dominant team at this point, even along the line of scrimmage, which is where Arkansas has won most of their games up to this point.
Guys, anything happen over the weekend that you're interested in?
I mean, just a little bit of womping on the part of the Arkansas Razorbacks, doing some work, Paul. I'm just thrilled they're back, okay? I like it when Arkansas is not sad and crazy. I like it when they're pretty good and crazy. I think they're an important counterbalance to the Alabama death machine, right? That big ball of Crimson Tide energy y'all always have over there. I like Arkansas over there, just kind of counterbalance them, just being like, hey, you might be crazy and big, but we're small and crazier.
Yeah, I was very wrong about how Arkansas's defensive line would match up against Texas A&M's offensive line. It was not much of a contest. Arkansas spent most of the afternoon making Zach Calzada run for his life because they were dominating dominating Texas A&M in the trenches so much. That's proof of concept for Sam Pittman. They won the way that I'm pretty sure Sam Pittman would draw it up. They out-physicaled an opponent, overcame some adversity. KJ Jefferson gets hurt. You have a backup in. You absolutely do not attempt to throw the ball at all. Everybody in the stadium and watching on television knows what you're going to do for the second half of that game with a backup in there.
Yeah. Oh, also, there was this little thing that happened in Nashville that went 62-0 in favor of Georgia's. So we're going to be ranking the most impressive and or outlandish stats from that because we have a lot to choose from.
Okay, that's all good and well or great or whatever the phrase is, but they head to Athens for a nooner on Saturday. Can they handle the Dogs?
I think we're of varying minds on this. We disagree on this. I think that it's likely still a Georgia victory, but that it's going to be very tight just because of the way the two teams happen to play. They're both dominated by good defenses. They're both offenses that can at times take a quarter or two off. Don't look at the Vandy tape. That's not representative of Georgia, all right? But I think it's going to be closer than people think. I think this is a stubborn Arkansas defense, although I know Richard disagrees.
Yeah, I do think Barry Odom and Arkansas's defense is going to have a little something for JT Daniels. They're going to make JT Daniels be patient. They're going to make JT Daniels sit, look into the teeth of that drop 8 defense, and wait and make smart decisions. Georgia's offensive line needs to live up to its own promise in this game. But on defense, Spencer, I do not think KJ Jefferson and the Arkansas Razorbacks are going to have a good time against Jordan Davis and his friends on Saturday. By the way, get cornerback Tyke Smith back to the Dogs.
Hey, listen, I just need to say, listen, I know this is all nice, and they've looked very impressive, and they are highly pedigreed dogs, every single one of them. However, I do know this. They haven't had a test yet. They really haven't. I know we all thought Clemson was the serious test offensively. They evidently weren't. Clemson is awful on offense. They are struggling in every facet of the game. And then the other time that they got to beat up on somebody, it's on Vandy, who we can very kindly say is in the middle of an extensive remodel.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
When it comes to threatening Alabama, though, because that's obviously the only thing we care about in the SEC, how seriously should we take Arkansas?
They are very good. I mean, they own the state of Texas this morning, having beaten the Longhorns a couple of weeks ago and A&M yesterday. But the problem is the schedule. Not only do they have to deal with Alabama in the next to the last game of the season, Nicole, guess where they go this coming Saturday? They go to Athens and take on the number 2 team in the country that many people think could be the best team in the country. So that's really the problem. I think they're really well coached under Sam Pittman, who's already a National Coach of the Year candidate. But I just don't think they can negotiate both Alabama and Georgia on the schedule.
It is a really hard schedule. But, hey, confidence goes a long way, and they got some of that yesterday.
We were talking off the air. You did Georgia Vandy the other day. First of all, I applaud you because that
really
that's a tough game to entertain the masses for almost 4 hours.
Well, you're assuming that we did that.
Well,
there's a decent chance. I don't know that there were masses around for the second half.
There were a lot of family members watching the game.
There maybe were, I suppose. Yeah, you'd like to think that somebody was out there. We hope.
I'm not here to disparage anyone, but when a game is that lopsided, and I assume it could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
How do you objectively
comment on what you're seeing when it's over so quickly?
Well, there is you take no joy in seeing drubbing. And so, I think what we did was you pivot to the team that's enjoying success, right, because that's likely who's probably even sticking around anymore. Nobody wants to stick around and watch their team get a mud hole stomped in them. And it was that extensive. And I think it just kind of colors the level of challenge that they're facing there at Vanderbilt now.
Let's look ahead. People are whether they're getting ahead of themselves or not, it's justified in talking about the Razorbacks as they head to Georgia. But they do have this week and then next week against Ole Miss, and people can say reality or not. It doesn't matter at this point. They have obliterated the expectations.
No doubt. I mean, even last year they were kind of the Cinderella story, and there were questions when Sam Pittman got the job, and you kind of, those are warranted, I think. Concerns, you can call them, or at least curiosities. We're going, never been a head guy, never been a coordinator. How often does this actually work? And kind of the mold at that time was, well, it worked at LSU. And we see that the difficulties that they're having there. Is it owing to just the head coach? Not necessarily. The idea that they've already got 4 wins, and they've got 2 of the best wins, I think, when you talk about as far as wins based on what we thought teams were coming into the season, they got the 2 best wins of the season. They beat Texas A&M, and that's not just relative to what we thought Arkansas was going to be. It's been a great story. Do we know that they're great football teams? Yeah, that's tough to say. I mean, Texas A&M, for example, were they at full strength? No. I mean, they were already in our backup quarterback. We saw them last week, A&M, and they've got some real problems. And it's not just quarterback. That offensive line is a problem. And their inability to get separation at receiver, a very real problem. And that was a costly victory for Arkansas. I mean, there was a lot of guys. You see KJ Jefferson leave the lineup. Traylon Burks leaves the lineup. You got 2 offensive linemen. They're playing hurt and played well. So already through the first month of the season, Arkansas has done a fantastic job. And you hope that there will be some level of sustaining that, because if it doesn't, from a win-loss standpoint, my concern would be you look back on this year and it's like, just another year for Arkansas. This is one of the more difficult schedules that anybody faced in the country, and they've handled it really well so far. But as you point out, it gets tougher. It gets tougher on Saturday.
Yeah. When you have to play the SEC West and then add at Georgia,
no favors done there.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
Remember the preseason polls? Well, they look like this, just in case. My, how things have changed. Now let's take a look at this week's college football rankings, brought to you by AT&T 5G. Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa all in the top 5, while Arkansas was the big mover this week, going up 8 spots to number 8. Taking a look at notable storylines after a month of play, Clemson has dropped out of the top 10. That's the first time in almost 6 years, ending the 3rd longest streak in the AP poll era. The Tigers fell to 25th after that NC State loss. How about a positive surprise? Arkansas 4-0 for the first time since 2003. The Razorbacks rank 8th in the AP poll after not receiving any votes in the preseason poll, thanks to wins over Texas and Texas A&M. Oregon and Penn State both rank in the top 4 of the poll after starting the season outside the top 10. The Ducks moved up with that big win at Ohio State, while the Nittany Lions have ranked wins over Wisconsin and Auburn. And how about this? 25 AP ranked teams have already lost this season, the most through the first 4 weeks of the season ever. 13 AP ranked teams have lost to unranked foes this year, the second most through 4 weeks all time. And Greg, I'll start with you. Why are we seeing this turnover?
Well, it's a combination of a lot of things, Wendy, but I would start with the transfer portal. That's probably number 1. There have been teams that have already addressed needs and fortified some depth in places that they've never been able to fortify depth before. You see a team like Arkansas, they went out and they got a transfer. Just using one as an example, his name's John Ridgeway. He plays nose tackle. He's from Illinois State. That guy's a game wrecker. I'm not saying he single-handedly beat Texas, but I'm saying he was a big reason why. Back in the day, prior to the one-time transfer without penalty, prior to the transfer portal, he would have still been at Illinois State and would have had to have sit out a year before making an impact at Arkansas. So Arkansas would have had to rely on a true freshman. freshman. So I think the transfer portal's been huge. And second thing, probably the impact of super seniors. We see teams like Wake Forest, we see teams like Michigan State that have relied not on fifth-year players, but sixth-year players, seventh-year players and sometimes. So I think some of those guys with that veteran presence and some of the young players that have come in via the portal, it's made for some pretty special recipes for a lot of teams.
Look, that veteran leadership matters, whatever the level you're playing. And Joey, I will ask you this. When you see some of these different names at the top of that leaderboard, which in our case is the AP poll, Clemson fans might disagree, but is this good overall for college football?
I think it's great, and I think it's accomplishing sort of what we're talking about. We'll get into later about expanding the playoff, letting more people get involved in this thing. It's sort of happening this season when we only still are at 4 teams getting. But the fact that Penn State, Iowa, Arkansas is now, snipping at the heels, this makes it fun. A lot of people think guys like Greg, guys like myself, are rooting for certain teams and certain conferences to get more teams in. No, our job is way more fun, way more enjoyable, gives us a lot more to talk about when we have a team in the Pac-12 or the Big 12, Big 10. We got a Cincinnati out of the American. This is great for college football, absolutely great for me and Greg, so we get more stuff to talk about, but it's going to be fun to see what happens down the stretch. All these teams, like the Arkansas, Cincinnati's going to play Notre Dame, Arkansas has to still go play Georgia, still has to get through Alabama. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to see if these teams deserve to be where they're ranked right now. But right now it has opened up a much larger conversation about which one of these teams deserves to be in the playoff later on.
I love it. I love the fact that Friday is October 1st, and we're still talking about this many teams and not this many teams as we look toward the end of the season and the postseason.
Just pretend the season ended right now and we had an expanded playoff. We might be talking about this team competing for a national championship. Arkansas off to their first 4-0 start since 2003, defeating Texas A&M this past weekend. Now they've beaten both schools in Texas, the Longhorns and the Aggies. KJ Jefferson was solid. Sam Pittman now recapping the big win.
I think when you have kids come back, there's twofold there. Obviously, you have some experience coming back, but you want them to come back better. And I think our kids that played last year are playing better than they did last year. Right now, the portal's a scary deal. I think the one thing you want to do is when you go in the portal, is you want to see kids that have played at this type of level.
So I know Stinch may have been a little bit surprised by Arkansas beating A&M because he picked A&M. I was not. I picked Arkansas, shamelessly tooting my own horn. But Greg, were you surprised by the way Arkansas was able to dominate this game from the beginning?
I don't care about what either one of y'all picked. I want to know who Marvel picked. That's all that really matters to me. And if Marvel picked Arkansas, we're in good shape.
Marvel picked A&M.
Okay, well, goodness gracious, Marvel. I love it. I love that you're holding his feet to the fire. All 4 of them, that is. When you look at this game, I can't say I was shocked because A&M hasn't really been themselves at any point this year in the line of scrimmage. Defensively, yes, very much so. They've been outstanding on the defensive line of scrimmage. But, man, when you look at how Arkansas was able to consistently apply pressure to Zach Calzada and make him really uncomfortable, man, it was hard to watch as a quarterback. Frank, I'm sitting there thinking, man, how are you supposed to get confident? How are you supposed to drive the ball down the field when this pocket is collapsing around me? And guess what? There's only 4 rushers. It's not like Arkansas was bringing the house. It's not like they were adding guys from the secondary or from the linebacker level to make me feel the heat. No, they were bringing it with just 3- and 4-man rushes. And that's a real problem because when you have 3- and 4-man rushes that can get home against your 5 or 6 guys in the protection, you know what that means? You have 3 or 4 guys out in the route and 7 guys to cover those 3 or 4 guys. So they had a lot of issues, I think, and Arkansas is going to try to take that exact same mentality on the road to Athens this week, where it will obviously be an increased challenge. But I tell you what, the way they're playing along both lines of scrimmage, it's hard to pick against Arkansas right now. I'm awfully confident in how they're playing.
Stinch, Treylon Burks is a name that constantly pops up when Arkansas is playing well. What makes him such a dynamic player?
Well, you're talking about one of the guys that can not only stretch the field, but is also just such a physical presence at wide receiver. We've seen him be able to take plays that otherwise would be ordinary and break tackles, run after the catch, the acrobatic catches. throws behind the line of scrimmage sometimes that he can turn into big gainers. They've run reverses and fly sweeps to him. He's a guy that you can't get enough touches to because he is such an explosive playmaker. And we came into the season, everybody's talking about, who are the top receivers coming into the year? Who's the top offensive front? So we do all these position rankings. Well, a lot of folks said Treylon Burks, and we are seeing why. He is a centerpiece to this offense. Even when he doesn't get the ball, he's influencing the outcome of the play because he commands so much attention from these defenses. Left the game last week versus Texas A&M, and it seems as if he's going to be okay, maybe a little bit sore. There's been some hard-fought victories for Arkansas, but when you look at what they've been offensively and the big play ability that he brings to that offense, he's what can make that gun go bang for Arkansas repeatedly this year.
160 receiving yards in the first half from Burks. I mean, those are the kind of numbers that you want to see, certainly in a game like that one. The Hogs, though, clearing their first hurdle of a brutal 4-game stretch with last week's win over A&M. Now they're going to try to win consecutive games against top 10 teams in a season. For just the second time in school history, they're going to hit the road to take on number 2 Georgia this Saturday. We're going to get into that game later on in the show. And I'm going to round it out with my word from week 4, and that's inspiration. I tweeted this on Saturday afternoon before the Arkansas A&M game was even over, and I said it is remarkable what Sam Pittman has been able to do in less than 2 years in Fayetteville. The way he's had this team playing since the moment he got on campus. And I can't tell you the amount of people who replied to that tweet who are fans of other programs saying, if they could do it, it gives me hope for my program as well. So I think Sam Pittman is not only inspiring Razorback fans, but college football fans across the country. How about this one going down as well? Sam Pittman returning to Athens with his Hogs 4-0 for the first time since 2003. The Razorbacks have only beaten the Dogs twice in their last 11 meetings. For the second straight week, though, Arkansas is going to face the top scoring defense in FBS. Coach Pittman and Coach Kirby talking the matchup.
They got 16-something seniors. They got 7 or 8 returning starters on both sides of the ball. I mean, you don't see that in the SEC. And I told people before the season started, write it down. Team with senior leadership, team with experience, team with the most seniors always does well in our conference. And no doubt they're doing the same here.
They've got an outstanding football team, and I think everybody knows that. Very physical, play extremely hard, obviously well coached, but we're looking forward to going over there and seeing where our team is this week, and we're excited about it.
How about the quarterback for the Hogs? KJ Jefferson has been one of the most dynamic QBs in the SEC this season with both his legs and his arm. He's been at his best when he's throwing off-run pass options on RPO dropbacks. His QBR is over 20 points higher compared to non-RPO throws, and he's completing those passes at a much higher rate. Stinch, not to mention, the dude is huge. It seems like he loves contact. He welcomes somebody trying to hit him. What have you seen from KJ Jefferson? What makes him so good?
Well, part of it's that physical play, right? And there's no better way to kind of ignite your football team when you see some of those runs by your quarterback. They lower their shoulders. A lot of people are making those comparisons to like a Cam Newton type of a talent. We might be a little bit ahead of ourselves, but make no mistake, KJ Jefferson has performed admirably and is part of the reason why that rushing attack has operated so well. And when you look at the way that his numbers are kind of disparate between RPO and non-RPO, I think it speaks to how well he's seeing the field, but also the decision-making that he's had after the snap. And that's something that you like to see more than anything else, how your quarterback is not only seeing the defense, but his ability to make quick decisions and get the football to whomever it is deserves it based on what the defense is showing them. Now, it's a different proposition this week versus Georgia, a more talented front seven, the most talented front seven they will have seen. But you hearken back to this past Saturday, it's not like Texas A&M doesn't have a good defense, and especially along their front. KJ Jefferson, as physical as he's been, a little bit concerning that he left that football game, got a little bit banged up, and that's such a big part of his game, not just running the football, but running it physically. You hope that he's healthy if you're Arkansas heading into Saturday.
So many skill players on both sides of this matchup, but it's the trenches. It's the battle of the big boys that I know I'm circling, Greg. When you look at Arkansas's offensive line, one of the best run-blocking O-lines in the country against Georgia's D-line, which we know brings in Big 99 Jordan Davis. What do you make of that matchup in the trenches?
I love that Stinch is talking about the quarterbacks. I'm talking about the O-line, D-line matchup. What in the world's going on, man? It must be 2021. I look at Arkansas's offensive line, man. I've been really proud of their growth this year. I think Ricky Stromberg in the middle of that offensive line at center has been outstanding. I mean, really outstanding. They're locking down the middle, making sure that pocket is nice and clean for his quarterback when he wants to drop back and throw. Then you look at the guys on the edges, man, they've done a really good job of getting out in front when they move and taking advantage, I think, of their athleticism. They are fairly athletic on that side of the football. I don't think Georgia's a team that's going to allow you just to run it right up the middle. You're going to have to get creative with how you run the football. I think most of the time you're going to have to run it outside the tackles, and you have to use some misdirection. Because Jordan Davis in the middle of that defensive line, he's eating it up, man. You can't take any chances with that guy. He is going to wear you out. And if you try to run against him, it's like running against a brick wall. So I think that's where the game could be won or lost. We've seen that defensive line for the Georgia Bulldogs already win one game this year. That was against the Clemson Tigers. And that was by far the best team they've played up to this point. So we'll see whether or not they can do it against what should be a much more capable offensive line in Arkansas when compared to some of the teams they faced so far.
The Georgia defense has still allowed just one touchdown 4 games into the season entering week 5, which is insane. And speaking of defense, we mentioned it earlier in the show. Arkansas's defense has been stout under Barry Odom, limiting Texas A&M to 272 yards of total offense. Defensive end Trey Williams has been a huge part of their success, certainly this past week. Throw in names like Jalen Catalon, the linebacking crew, and this. The Hog defense has been one of the best units in the nation. They're allowing just under 15 points per game, one of 4 teams that haven't allowed a single point in the first quarter this season. Opposing quarterbacks are averaging just 4.7 yards per attempt. That's the second best mark in the FBS, trailing only the Georgia Bulldogs. And with more on the Arkansas defense, let's send it over to Stitch.
Yeah, really impressive numbers, there's no doubt. And so what's that stench this week? It's what Barry Odom's been cooking up defensively. He's been bringing the funk all year long. So it's not just scheme. So everybody talks about, oh, they just play with the 3 down and they drop 8. But what do they do versus the run? Because the whole idea is defensively, you know what? We'll force you to try to run your way out of this thing. So Texas A&M says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run a play that's very similar to what Georgia likes to run. This is a sweep concept into the boundary. And so you're going to end up getting some pullers out here, and you're going to get a couple of guys out in front. And the idea is for this back to get outside and to the sideline. And defensively, what do you have to do? You have to set the edge and string it out. So watch this defender right here, Joe Fouché. Not only is he going to crash the line of scrimmage, but he'll keep his outside arm free. That means that if that ball does get outside of him, he can still play the ball carrier. So as this play unfolds, watch how he crashes the line of scrimmage. And you see the pullers now. Here's the pullers. You got 3 potential blockers. Arkansas does such a good job of stringing this play out. They trip, they fall. Where are you going with this football as a ball carrier? You're going out of bounds because you ran out of field. The other element is this. When you watch this team play, they do a great job of controlling the tackle box. So that's from here to here. They control it with just 5 defenders. Look at these guys. So you've got 1, 2, 3 down linemen, and these 2 are in the box. If you had the end zone copy, these 2 defenders right here, they're outside the tackle box. Now, they're kind of nosy, but look, they're off the line of scrimmage. And so what they end up doing is they do a great job of controlling this run with just those 5 defenders. They get penetration quickly. They play the puller right here. They spin right back out of it. You've got 2 linebackers right at the point of attack, and you end up getting a tackle at the line of scrimmage. This is pivotal because what they like to do is they like to funnel the passing game. They want you to throw it to a check down, throw it to a back out of the backfield. So you end up on this play, once again, a very similar alignment defensively. You see the 3 down linemen here. You see the 2 linebackers here. And what they're capable of doing is on a first down play, a heavy play action look. Watch how quickly they diagnose, where you'll see these linebackers, they'll check up and then they bail. And they create this umbrella type defense. And the whole idea is to funnel this football to the back out of the backfield. And that's exactly what they end up doing. There's 3 receivers capable of catching the football downfield. You end up having 8 defenders to handle these 3 receivers downfield. And they end up pushing. Where are you going to go with the football? We're going to push it to your back out of the backfield. The ball comes here, and they end up rallying. You don't see any defenders, and then you do. They do a great job of dropping back in coverage and forcing you to check that football down. We'll let you make those short completions. We'll rally to the ball, and that's the reason why they're holding teams to only 4.1 yards a play.
I want to ask you about another game. I don't think you mentioned the team earlier, but they're also undefeated, and they have accomplished a lot. No one should take anything away from the Razorbacks, but still, as much as they have accomplished, why should we believe, I'm not saying you do, but why should anyone believe other than Razorback fans that they can go into Athens and win this game?
Well, I think it's a team that's gaining a lot of confidence, and it's a veteran team. I spoke with Sam Pittman last week about the fact that he brought back so much on both sides of the ball, even though they were breaking in a new quarterback and a couple of new pieces. Along the line of scrimmage, it's very familiar, even though they've had some injuries on the offensive line. You know, they showed they can match up with the Texas A&M, even with a kind of rebuilding or at least the starting over Texas team under Sark. And this is a much, much bigger challenge. But I like the fact that they're experienced. I like the fact that the head coach has familiarity with the opponent, having worked under Kirby Smart in Georgia. And I don't think the Hogs are going to be necessarily intimidated in that environment, although they have to be aware of how difficult it will be to run the football, to score points. Their defense, which is really their calling card under Barry Odom with all that experience, they're going to have to stay in this game and get it into the second half and make Georgia earn its points. We haven't seen that as much other than Clemson with Georgia's opponents. So this is going to be a much tougher task for Georgia's offense, just as it will Arkansas's offense. But I like the combination of experience and physical line of scrimmage play, plus that familiarity that Sam has with Kirby and that Georgia program.
How about this one? Arkansas on the road, a huge road test. And I think it's huge for Georgia on defense. You're going to have to defend an athletic quarterback in KJ Jefferson and explosive plays from Treylon Burks and company. They can beat you so many ways, through the air, on the ground, and a creative quarterback. Conversely, can Georgia defensively impact and affect JT Daniels if he's to go for the Georgia Bulldogs? That's the key for Arkansas on defense.
Listen, guys, if you're looking for life's little joys, there's very few better than a Saturday afternoon game between the hedges. If you haven't done it, there's not a whole lot better. What's also interesting is that 2 years ago, Sam Pittman was an unconventional choice to lead an SEC team, but in just 2 seasons, he's changing the culture of the Arkansas Razorbacks with his coaching style, his authenticity, and a rallying call that resonates with his players.
Won the Hogs at the Dogs. Arkansas visiting Athens, taking on the number 2 team in the country in the Georgia Bulldogs. 2 stout defenses matching up, but more importantly, a place that head coach Sam Pittman is very familiar with. And first, he's coming through out of pocket before worrying about that game between the hedges. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show. Walk us through what you're most looking forward to about being back in Athens, outside of taking on the number 2 team in the country.
Well, I've made some fine friends there when I was there, and looking forward to saying hello to them. I obviously have a lot of love for the coaching staff. And, after the game, I'm hoping I'll have an opportunity to say hello to some of the players. But the fans were very, very good to me when I was there. And I understand it's different now. But they were so loyal to the university and so kind to me. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
Coach, I want to talk about your team, obviously coming off of a big win against Texas A&M, but how quickly were the guys able to turn the page and start focusing on Georgia this week?
We've done a good job of that. I think this year, obviously we had the big game against Texas and then came back against Georgia Southern, and we did it last year. So we recover pretty fast, at least mentally. We recover really fast, and I think our offense was a little slower on Monday and Tuesday than what our defense was, but I'm really looking forward to having a great practice today, and I think we'll be just fine. We understand it's the SEC. Every game's a big game.
Coach, when it comes to your quarterback, KJ Jefferson, first of all, how is he feeling? Second of all, how cool has it been for you to watch him do what he's done throughout the first 4 games there in Arkansas?
Well, he's doing fine, first of all. And second of all, to be honest with you, we really didn't know what we had until he went down the sideline against Rice. You can't touch a quarterback in fall camp, can't touch him in spring ball. we didn't know really how good of a runner that he was until that game. And certainly we've amped up his running ability or his attempts over the last 3 weeks after the Rice game. So I'm really proud of him. I think he'll be fine. But he's become a much better runner than what we ever thought he would be.
Coach, we talk about KJ Jefferson, and I know you've talked about Hayden Henry being healthy this season. Who are some other players that have really just elevated their play or kind of taken it to another level this year compared to last year?
Yeah, Tyson Morris, I think, really just comes immediately off my mind. Mo Brown, a corner, is playing so much better ball. You mentioned Hayden, obviously. Bumper we knew about. Grant we knew about. I've really been happy with, Trey Williams and John Ridgeway and Markel Utsey. Those guys have done a nice job on our transfer. But we've gotten a lot better on the D-line just with the guys we originally had with Nichols and Williams and some of those guys too. So those guys stick out a little bit. I like our young freshman running backs with Green and Rocket Sanders. But, our line's playing better than what I thought it would as well.
Coach, I want to ask you a question that has absolutely nothing to do with your football team, but I'm just very curious. We're both pet parents here on this show. I know you have a furry friend at home in your dog. And I'm curious because a lot of the other coaches that I'll talk to across the league, when they go on the road, they'll send their pup with another one of the head coaches of the other programs, but all the other head coaches are at your games. So what do you do with your dog when you travel?
Well, poor old Lucy, she's 12, and she doesn't hear anymore. So we hire or we ask someone to come over and watch her, and we've got a little guest house out there, and she can. Our dog sitter can stay out there if she wants to, and then making sure old Lucy's doing good, and so that's what we do with her. We have somebody come over and watch her.
I love it.
All right, Coach, we're going to play a game with you. We usually call this game hype or nah, but because it's with you, we're going to call it yes, sir, or no, sir. Because we know that yes, sir is your thing. So if you like the topic, if you're all about it, it's yes, sir. If you're not about it, it's no, sir.
And you have to say it like we like to hear.
Yeah,
yes,
if you're really, really hype about it. So
yes, sir.
There it is. Just to warm up.
Just like that. Okay, so I did some research because I like to do my research, and I saw that you won the shot put state title when you were in high school. So super simple one here. Do you still got it, Coach? Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Oh, that's a yes, sir.
I love. When was the last time you actually did that? Has it been recently?
Through the shot put?
Yeah.
No, I did throw it when I was at Princeton High School. I coached a state champion in the shot put.
Nice.
So I was out there trying to beat him every now and then. But I was 26 at the time, so I had a chance against him then.
I love it. All right. Next one. Yes, sir. No, sir. We've used this one before, but I just love how polarizing it is. Pineapple on pizza. Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Oh, no, sir.
Oh, we have a new one. Now it's no, sir.
No, sir. Okay, I've got one. I don't know if you know this, Coach, but there is a statue of Popeye, the Sailor Man, in Alma, Arkansas. Apparently, it's the spinach capital of the world. I don't know if you know that, but it's not far from Fayetteville. So my question is, eating cooked spinach, sautéed spinach, yes, sir, or no, sir?
Yes, sir.
I love it. I'm not a spinach person, and I did not know that statue existed.
Yep.
So you learn something new every day.
I get this body like spinach, by the way. So.
That's how that offensive line is so strong,
exactly,
because they keep eating all that spinach. Coach, this is a little bit more of an in-depth yes sir, no sir, I guess. But last year on the show, we had your linebacker Grant Morgan on, and he said that he does not enjoy eating bacon. Do you enjoy bacon? Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Yes, sir. I don't know what's wrong with Grant. I love Grant.
Yeah.
But no bacon?
There's something wrong with him. You need to make him run more.
You got to talk to him about that one. You got to talk to him about that one. All right. Last one, because I thought it was so cute. in the media after Texas A&M when you got distracted by your wife, Jamie Pittman. So this one, last one, Jamie Pittman running the Pittman household. Yes, sir, or no, sir?
Oh, my Lord, that's easy. Yes, sir.
That's the biggest yes, sir, I think we're ever going to get from
Absolutely,
Coach.
yes. And I know, Jamie, you'll be happy about that one. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Well, yes, sir. Sam Pittman and company, they are going to face the Georgia defense that was strong last year. Georgia held Arkansas to 3 points in the second half when they faced off last year, and that's a dog defense that might be even better this year. Looking at the numbers, it might be tough.
This program was built on physicality and hit. It's a physical-ass war. It ain't about how you look. It's about how you hit. Let's go kick that ball.
Relentless pass rush. They swarm him. They get him for a 7th time tonight. Intercepted. Christopher Smith.
You're either elite or you're not. And that's what we've been saying all camp.
Holy cow, how good is Georgia's defense?
They've got like 100 5-star football players on their defense.
Those beasts that Georgia has on their team.
Nakobe Dean, Lewis Seen, Trayvon Walker, Adam Anderson, Jordan Davis.
They have a defensive lineman that weighs 340 pounds and runs better than everybody on this call.
It's a safety. It's off the hands of Harris and intercepted. Pick 6 written all over it.
They've got 5-star defensive backs. They're big and physical and fast. I mean, other than that, they're really freaking good.
Adding Will Muschamp to that defensive staff ought to be illegal.
That's why they have the top defense in the country. 5-star recruits everywhere, and they play really physical. Damn.
This group from front to back is as advertised.
Do not fall victim to the disease. We're too good. We can't be beat. We're not practicing to beat somebody. We're practicing to beat everybody.
All right, Lang, so I've got to ask you, because all those highlights that we just saw, you've seen them in person. What is Arkansas? What do they have to be ready for going against this Georgia defense?
Everything. Everything. I mean, like, name something that feels illegal. That Georgia defense, having all of that talent. It's truly unbelievable. Andrea, we were on this show last week talking about things that we knew through the first 4 weeks, things that we thought we knew, things that we wanted to know more about. And mine was that I believed that the Georgia defense was the best unit in the country. After watching them against Vanderbilt, and let's be very clear, Vanderbilt is a team with a lot of work to do in the SEC. Still, watching them up close and personal, it was like, okay, if I thought they were for real, I don't know what the next level above for real is, but that's where they are. Yeah. You talk about every single facet of that defense. They've scored 2 touchdowns and they've allowed 1. Yeah. This Georgia defense has scored 2 touchdowns and has allowed 1 through 4 games. Yeah. That's unbelievable. Arkansas is going to have their hands full. I think that they can do it. I think it can be a fight. But Georgia just feels unbeatable to me right now.
I know, but what better time for Arkansas if you think about it, right? They've got 4 legitimate options at running back, right? And I think from KJ Jefferson, we've seen in the Rice game, he was obviously running, right? But the last 2 weeks.
Sam Pittman said that.
Yeah, in the last 2 weeks, though, he's also shown that he can throw the football, right? And he's also mobile. So if that defensive line is getting after him, he has shown he can escape the pocket and get the ball down the field. Yeah. So I think it's week 5. Arkansas is not too banged up, right? Ricky Strongberg is good to go. He was questionable against A&M. He started against A&M. Veteran offensive line, mobile quarterback that's got some confidence now throwing the football. They can run the football. I think they have the pieces to do it.
I think for Arkansas, it's very important to do what you've been doing all season, right? Yep. Like you said, they're very good at running the football. Their offensive line, one of the best run blocking one of the best run blocking units in the country. Yep. You've got KJ Jefferson, who's got a lot of confidence, a lot of weapons on the outside. Yeah. Georgia is going to throw the house at you, though, because they know they're an Arkansas team coming in hot and ready to try to upset the Dogs in Athens. It's going to be one heck of a game.
Yeah, but
I'm afraid to make a pick.
I mean, what I saw when I spent time with Arkansas, they are very together. Yeah. So I do have a feeling that if things get rough, they're going to pull together instead of pulling apart, because that's what I've seen so far.
Meanwhile, over in Georgia, what's the condition of JT Daniel? He may be a little bit limited. He's had a tough season when it comes to injuries, but they have one of the biggest games in the country hosting the Razorbacks. Razorbacks have some QB issues of their own with KJ Jefferson. What exactly is his status? We don't know, but let's hope he's ready to roll. It's about the defenses. They are both very good. Arkansas is ranked in the top 11 in the country. But guess who's ranked number 1? Dogs, can you bark? It's our Thursday segment with Mike Griffith. Griff, great to have you with us. Big game in your town this coming weekend. The Hogs are coming over. How's the week gone so far?
Yeah, I think it's gone pretty well. I mean, a top 10 game in Athens between the hedges. It's a treat for the folks at Sanford Stadium. As we know, Georgia plays their marquee game every year in Jacksonville against Florida. So when you get a game like this between the hedges, it's an opportunity for a huge recruiting weekend. Maybe one of the biggest home recruiting weekends since Georgia played Notre Dame between the hedges in 2019. So it's a huge opportunity for Georgia to score well with recruits and potentially score well on the field.
Listen, Mike, you hear from people all the time. I did a show out in Arkansas this morning, and the Razorback fans rightfully are really fired up. Whether they're predicting victory based on fandom or reality, I don't know. But what do you think as we dig deep into this game?
Well, Sam Pittman has just had remarkable success, and it's so good to see Arkansas back at the adult table. In the SEC playing great football. I mean, look at Arkansas. They go out and get Sam Pittman at a Walmart price, and he knocks off the oil barons in Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher and his $9 million and unbelievable state. Everything Texas A&M, everything they could want. They've handed it to Jimbo. They've even given him a raise, even though he's had an NCAA show cause. And he goes out there and gets beat by a guy with a Walmart salary from Arkansas that was the 5th or 6th choice. And all Sam has done is put together a tremendous staff, got kids that believe, these super seniors that have come back to make one last run for glory. I mean, Tom Murphy, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, really put this in perspective this week when he said, take a look at this. Sam takes over a program. They'd lost 19 straight SEC games, and 14 games later, they're a top 10 team. That is remarkable, Paul. I can't think of another coach, probably since Terry Bowden went 11-0 at Auburn in 1993 after Pat Dye was 5-6 and 5-5-1 the previous seasons. I can't think of another turnaround this dramatic in the last 30 years.
You're right. And by the way, you should know better than anyone that show causes are not really going to hurt your career arc in college football based on some of the things we've already talked about in the past.
Yeah, well, the NCAA is a whole nother. I mean, I think there is still an NCAA, right? Where football's. We'll talk NCAA come basketball, because right now during football, not relevant, not a part of it. Topic for another show. Paul, the only thing that could make this Georgia game better with Arkansas is if Arkansas wasn't coming off such an emotional high. I just don't think you can have two performances like Arkansas would need to beat Georgia. I mean, you're coming off this sky-high win over A&M at AT&T Stadium. Meanwhile, Georgia basically had the day off. I mean, Vanderbilt did show up, but they did little more than that. I mean, 62-0, and Kirby pulled the first-string quarterback in the first quarter and didn't throw a pass in the fourth quarter. They could have scored 100 points, but they didn't. So you've got a rested, hungry Georgia team that's eager to prove they can beat somebody, because now Clemson apparently doesn't matter because they've lost a couple of football. I still think Clemson's a decent team. They'd still finish with, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 wins if they were in the SEC. So I'm not ready to bury those Clemson Tigers yet. But still, Georgia, other than that, hasn't really played much of a schedule. In fact, if you look at the offenses they've played, I think UAB was the best. They ranked 78th, 79th in the country.
There's a lot I want to talk to you about, so let me get a prediction out of you here, and then we'll move on to some other subjects. So what's it going to be Saturday? What's the final score?
Well, I think Georgia wins, Paul, but here's the problem with predicting this game, and I know you don't like these, the fence riding, but these are teams that both have potential quarterback issues. We don't really know about KJ Jefferson. Sam said on Monday that he expected him to play. I asked Sam on Wednesday, And he said, I'm not answering. He pretty much said, I'm not answering that. So now they need a healthy KJ Jefferson to have a puncher's chance, because the way for Arkansas to stay in this game is with deep shots. They lead the nation in yards per catch. They have a breakaway receiver in Treylon Burks. They got 5 guys that have caught passes of more than 40 yards. So this is a big play offense. And if you're going to get Georgia, you are going to get their cornerbacks. That's where they're susceptible, particularly opposite Darian Kendrick. They've had problems there with Keely Ringo and Amir Speed. South Carolina hit them 4 times for passes of longer than 35 yards. There were 4 pass interference penalties against Clemson. So Arkansas has the puncher's chance if Jefferson is healthy. Conversely, Kirby revealed this week JT Daniels still dealing with a lat issue. Now, what does that mean? He looked awful good last week against Vanderbilt with a sore lat. He was 9 of 10 with a drop pass. I don't know how long JT stays in the game, probably till they build about a 3-touchdown lead. So I think it's going to be right around that 17 to 21 point margin, depending on how friendly Kirby Smart feels in the fourth quarter, unless Arkansas can hit those deep shots early.
So, for the most part, you think this is about a 3-touchdown game. Is that fair?
I think so. The fact that it's at home for Georgia, the fact that Georgia is a very rested team, and the fact that Arkansas is coming off such a sky-high victory, all those intangibles favor Georgia. Now, say this, though, Paul. Sam Pittman, if anybody knows how to move the ball and block this defensive front, it's Sam Pittman. When Sam was at Georgia, he was building offensive lines that were pushing around the D-line. This guy knows what he's doing. And they've got a whole offensive line full of returning starters. So I give Arkansas a chance. But, Paul, the talent that Georgia has is overwhelming. You're talking about multiple NFL players. They'll probably have at least 9, 10, 11 guys drafted next year, where a lot of these Arkansas guys are going to be looking for corporate jobs in the Walmart chain in Arkansas.
It's a good company, by the way.
It's a great. Hey, my dad. Listen, I want full disclosure. My dad was a Walmart pharmacist, so I'm all about Walmart. Just want to be clear on that. That's not a put down.
Didn't intend for it to be.
What a matchup we've got there. Number 8 Arkansas heading to Athens to take on the second-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs lead the all-time series 11-4 with the Razorbacks, only winning 2 times since they joined the SEC. Arkansas, however, won its last trip to Athens. The first matchup Arkansas has played in a top 10 matchup since 2011, when it lost to number 1 LSU. The Hogs haven't won a road top 10 since beating number 1 Texas in 1964. Sam Pittman has the Razorbacks off to their first 4-0 start since 2003. He heads back to Georgia, where he spent 4 seasons as the Bulldogs' offensive line and associate head coach. Here he is now.
A lot of big games in the SEC, and this is one of them. It's a little bigger, a little more personal, because, Georgia, was so good to me. Kirby, I wouldn't be the head coach at Arkansas if it wasn't for Kirby Smart. So, part of me we want to take a good football team in there. I don't want to disappoint the man. I want to do a good job, and he's part of the reason why I'm here.
The stakes are high anytime you play in the SEC, but especially when you got 2 teams in the top 10 matched up together in Sanford Stadium, it makes it special.
Well, this game is on pace to have the largest point spread in a top 10 matchup between SEC teams since the 1978 FCS split. The current high came back in 2016 when top-ranked Alabama was favored by a solid 18 points against number 6 Texas A&M. The Crimson Tide covered, by the way, in a 33-14 win. Sam, I'll start with you. Listen, on paper, it's a pretty big spread there. Are you buying the differential between these 2 teams?
Man, y'all need to stop looking at paper and start watching the film. I'm getting chills just listening to some of these Arkansas players and their coach. I've been watching Arkansas for a long time. I called the Texas game a few weeks ago when Arkansas demolished Texas. I called the game after that. So I watched this team. Offensively, KJ Jefferson can do it all. Not only can he run the ball, but he can also throw the ball. He proved it last week. And then, so look at him. Like against Texas, they ran for over 330 yards against Texas. He's calm in the pocket. He's cool. He's collected. He had a shot. He shied against Georgia Southern 2 weeks ago, but it was Georgia Southern. Then he went out and did it again against A&M, the number one rushing defense at that time. He did it. He shined, threw for over 200 yards. So that's their offense. But then defensively, they got two players by the name of Hayden Henry and Bumper Poole playing inside linebacker, and both those guys can play. That team loves to hunt, and Arkansas is in for a treat. Every Arkansas fan's in for a treat because it's going to be a great game.
Come on, Sam. I'm right there with you, man. How about the disrespect for Arkansas? I mean, 18.5 points. That's crazy. They always say Vegas knows somehow, but I know what I see on tape, and these guys are ready to play. You kind of have that unstoppable force, immovable object with the Arkansas rush attack and that Georgia defense. The one thing that I am interested to see when you look at Georgia's opponents offensively, they have not played a top-tier caliber offense yet. You're talking about teams in the hundreds and high 90s. So this will be the first real test for these Georgia Bulldogs, which is crazy to think the Clemson Tigers on that schedule, but offensively just not ready and at this caliber. So excited to see, what can Arkansas do offensively? And then for Georgia, JT Daniels banged up. How much is that going to affect him? He is sounding like he's getting his big tight end back, Washington, who, man, I think that could really open up the offense, just to have another playmaker, another big tight end that, golly, 6'7", 260, 250. He's a freak out on the edge.
I tell you what, guys, I happen to agree. I know it's decided between the lines, but there are some intangibles here. And Sam Pittman, they are buying what he's selling. We watched a piece yesterday. It's really fun to see the culture he's instilling in Arkansas. I think we're all in for a pretty great matchup.
We see Coach Saban speaking to his team through the media. How about Coach Smart speaking to the fan base through the media, challenging them to create the atmosphere at home that they need? Mm-hmm. You almost get the feeling that he's upset about this game being a noon kickoff because of how big the game is. I believe game day is in Athens, right? I mean, it's a huge weekend, and they're playing this football game at noon on a day that's filled with big time matchups in our conference.
All right, so how would you have handled it any differently? And the reason why I'm saying that, I don't want to get into television windows and but I mean, at this point, you pretty much knew going in, with CBS has the number one pick for a couple more years right now.
Ole Miss is
Alabama,
sexy.
Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin versus Nick Saban. That was clearly going to be number one. I honestly like it. If for no other reason, it is, hey, this has nothing to do with the crowd. And for Georgia and Kirby Smart, earlier in the week, remember, CD, he had that sound that said, earlier in the year, he said, we're not practicing to beat someone, we're practicing to beat everyone. I don't think Nick Saban ever cares what time kickoff is, right? It's like Alabama will beat you at 3 a.m. in the morning in a parking lot if we want. That's the mentality for Kirby Smart's squad. And I think that they show it this week why they are the number one team in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you that they're the most complete team in the country, should be the number one team in my opinion as well. But going along with those expectations means you have to perform like Alabama, which, hey, like you said, they show up anytime, anywhere, and play to the level of their own expectation. Can Georgia do that? They did it last week in what was a potential letdown spot, playing in Nashville at 11 a.m. local time against a Vanderbilt team that's not very good. They were sharp out of the gate, 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns. That, to me, shows a level of maturity that I don't know that Georgia's had typically in the past as much.
Okay, you've played football a lot more than I have, believe it or not. And so, riddle me this, Batman. I don't feel like teams defensively come out flat. I feel like offensively they don't feel like they don't get the push, and offensively
did you
they can
happen to
look
watch
flat.
the Georgia State Auburn game on Saturday? Auburn's defense came out flat.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Zacoby McClain was not there for the first half because of the terrible targeting call against him in the Penn State game, but they were definitely flat, and they changed, and there was an energy level that picked up in the second half. So I don't necessarily agree with you. Flat to me is something that defenses maybe control more than offenses, because defenses are the ones that are flying around. Defenses are the ones that play with more emotion. I can tell you, in the tunnel before we would come out, I never wanted to be around the defensive coaches. I'd look over and these defensive coaches would be headbutting guys with their helmets on, with blood coming down. So I don't agree that the defensive folks can't come out flat because they certainly do.
130 some odd teams in FBS. Where does this Dirty Dog defense rank? 1, 1, 1, 1 all across the board. And by the way, Tyke Smith, the ballyhooed transfer from West Virginia.
We've heard about him a lot. We haven't seen him.
He comes back, and I go back in this. I still believe that the injuries that happened to Georgia early in the season were only going to help this team develop, right? Between Washington getting back, they were able to build a little bit more of Brock Bowers on that offense. And then now you see with Smith and others, other guys had to step up. I think they do it. I think they forced Treylon Burks to basically either bracket coverage or double team him and say, hey, if you could beat me with KJ Jefferson, be a little bit banged up, more power to you.
This is why you recruit the way that Alabama and Georgia recruit. It's not just to have the best players on the first 11. It's about the depth in the second and third string, because inevitably you're going to have guys step up when injuries occur. And I think credit to that Georgia roster to have those guys that have been able to take advantage of opportunities like they've seen.
I guess it was 3 weeks ago tomorrow. I finally jumped on the Sam Pittman train. I got a decent seat. Now you can't get one.
You can't.
But I didn't realize as I made my way up and down the train, you're driving it.
I'm driving the bus. I'm all in on Arkansas right now. Everything they're building, and nobody wants to hear about how many recruits you're getting, because it's all about what you do with those players when you get them on campus. Right. And Sam Pittman has turned the corner. He has changed these guys' mentality. And nobody thought that Arkansas had great players until Sam Pittman showed up. And they're the same players. It's not like he has recruited. He's not like he's winning with true freshman players or his guys. These were players that were already on this campus that he has developed, has changed their mindset, and they truly believe in everything that these coaches are telling them and what they're being taught. They do it the right way. They play every down like it's their last, and they play hard, and they play for each other. And it's something to be said about when teams actually play for each other, the man beside them, that how much more you'll be able to get or you will earn more in the long run. And Arkansas is a great example of that.
We're about to scoot over to Athens, another major game tomorrow. It's the early game, the noon game, of course, between Arkansas and Georgia. And on the call, Chris Fowler. Chris, it's great to have you with us. And I know you're no stranger to Athens. I've done programs with you over there before, pretty memorable as well. It's great to have you, and I know you're excited to be doing that game tomorrow.
Very excited, man. We were here last year when Athens was kind of a ghost town on football Saturdays, but to be back here for the 54th straight sellout game that I don't think Georgia fans at the beginning of the year had circled as a massive top 10 showdown. Very few of us did. They thought this might be part of that lull with Vandy and then Arkansas, take a breather before Auburn and Florida, but it hasn't worked out that way. And I think they're nervous here about being more than 2.5 touchdown favorites over this Arkansas team. So I think Arkansas has their attention for sure.
Yeah, and Chris, I know you're there to do the game. Fans don't like these early noon starts because Athens, most people aren't even home yet by 8 or 9 in the morning in Athens. I'm curious though, because you and Kirk are normally doing the primetime game. Realizing this is a big game, one of the 2 biggest games in the country. How did it end up that got switched around? I know we're inside baseball here, but I'm curious.
Well, Paul, I like my Friday nights too, so I don't normally relish these early kickoffs either. I'm like a lot of the players and a lot of the fans, but we're excited about this one. I think that, typically we would do the ABC primetime game, which cannot be an SEC game, as folks in this part of the world know. But on special occasions, when you have a day like tomorrow, when it's a great time to be an SEC fan and showdowns all over the place and game day being here, this sort of fell naturally into place for us. And I'm certainly excited to have a chance to see Georgia for the second time and get a look at a team that may be tracking toward the playoff. But yeah, it's very cool. I'll get up at 5 in the morning. It doesn't matter what time. I would get up in the middle of the night to call this one, Paul.
And for those who don't know that much about Chris, which would not include a lot of people, when you were hosting Game Day for 25 years, you were not going out on Friday night. Because I distinctly remember one year I was in a restaurant in Athens, because I do go out, and you called me about 11 o'clock. You had I just have one question about your segment. I'm like going, why is this guy calling me at 11 o'clock? That's how, I mean, there was nobody that ever prepared harder than you did, because you were also doing Game Day in a game. So you had a lot on your plate back then.
Well, yeah, I was up late, but not out late. And like I said, I enjoy Athens on a Friday night as much as the next person. I have a lot of friends down here. I think this is one of the great college towns in America. So I'll enjoy myself, but I'll also be ready to go, because they're trying to implore Georgia fans to not be blasé, to get in their seats and be seated and ready to make noise at noon, because that's not the normal MO. You know how it is. You get these early kicks in the SEC. Typically, it's not a big game, but that is not the case here.
Chris, when you did that game now 4 weeks ago in Charlotte, I just wonder what you must have been thinking, because I mean it was a defensive struggle, but since then Georgia has ascended to what many think is almost a co-number one, and Clemson has just about fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I mean, I got to call one touchdown that night, and it was Chris Smith with a 74-yard pick six. We talked to him today, said, thanks for giving me one highlight. But I don't mind a defensive game like that. I love a pass rush. And the way Georgia swarmed Uiagalelei for 7 sacks that night, we knew they were pretty good. Now, we didn't know Clemson was going to be this bad on offense, but that doesn't really diminish what I think of Georgia as a defense. I mean, Kirby is putting it out there that I'm not buying the hype yet. The verdict is still out on this defense because they have played 4 offenses that have struggled, but that's in part because they played Georgia. They know they're going to have to get better as they go forward in the next month. I mean, October is going to define Georgia as a football team. This game, Auburn, Kentucky, and then, of course, the game in Jacksonville. After that, it tapers off, but it's all about October. And I think that they're ferocious, they're deep, they're athletic, they communicate extremely well, they like each other a lot. Connectivity, that's the program buzzword for Georgia. It shows up on defense. They got everything you want. Offensively, we haven't seen all the pieces in place yet. As you know, they're very banged up at receiver. They're hopeful that JT Daniel can go tomorrow, but when they actually get their pieces back on offense and begin to click, I think they'll be an even better football team a few weeks from now.
Chris, I'm curious. I mean, we're still young in this college football season, but you've seen a lot already. I think you saw Oklahoma last week. You've seen Clemson. You've seen Georgia. What is there? Is there an explanation of why so many really good teams are playing so poorly right now?
New quarterbacks, offenses in transition, I think, is part of it. Kirk and I both thought that coming into this season, the defenses were going to rise up a little bit. It wasn't going to be a case of the elite teams in college football all scoring 50 points a game. It's been pretty ridiculous the last few years in terms of what it takes to get into the playoff and win a championship. It still takes explosive offense, but I think that the defenses are beginning to adjust. You're seeing defenses like Arkansas, play the 3-3-5, 3-2-6, whatever you want to call it. They're letting you complete the underneath stuff. They're forcing quarterbacks to check it down and be patient and not press. And that's the answer to the modern high-powered spread offenses. And I think the defenses are having a moment. So that's part of it. There hasn't been, outside of Alabama and maybe Georgia, a completely dominant team. But I think the pieces are in place here. I'm not going to say they just give the trophy out in Atlanta at the SEC championship game, but they do look like they've set themselves apart. I mean, you look at the talent here, Paul. You watch the practice at Georgia. I mean, everybody knows how they recruited, but you see the personnel, and it reminds me of what Howard Schnellenberger, former Alabama man, a guy who used to emulate Bear Bryant's growl when he used to talk about Louisville and Oklahoma. He would say, well, we're on a collision course for a national championship, and the only variable is time. And that's kind of how it feels at Georgia. The variable is time, but I do feel like they're moving toward that championship. Their fans are hoping it's this year, sooner, not later, but the personnel exists here, and they're an impressive outfit. And like I said, we haven't seen the best of Georgia yet, I don't think.
Talking to Chris Fowler for another moment or two. He is live in Athens on the call tomorrow for Arkansas and Georgia. And it almost seems like overkill, Chris, talking about Sam Pittman. But, the season could take a turn tomorrow. But, I mean, it is still pretty remarkable to think about how bad this program was and where it is today.
Yeah, 19 straight SEC losses. That seems shocking when you look at it from the lens now. You know Sam very well. It's impossible not to like Sam Pittman if you know him, and you kind of root for him and his story and his teams because he's such a genuine, authentic guy in a business that is not cornered the market on those qualities. But, before the season, he was thinking, scrape and claw and battle to get to 6 wins. Any bowl game he thought would be successful, right? Like that would help recruiting and get them going. Now with it, the goals are much higher. Are they a top 10 team? We're fixing to find out. I'm not going to say yes, sir, as Coach Pittman would say yet. I think we're going to find out. But I mean, they're very talented. They're aggressive on defense. If KJ Jefferson can go, it's a pain management, pain tolerance issue for both quarterbacks in the body part that is crucial to their success, right? For Jefferson, it's a knee. They've got to be able to get the quarterback run going to make it work against Georgia, make their offense work. For Daniel, it's that lat problem. He's got to be able to throw the ball and press the ball downfield to make it work. So which quarterback can sort of manage that better, or are we going to see a couple of backups in here? That's a possibility, too.
Arkansas heads to Georgia, and we know the Arkansas story very, very well. Georgia, some people are saying, hold on a second. We know how elite their defense is, but they beat Clemson.
Yeah.
But since then, they played.
That doesn't necessarily mean as much now.
Yeah. So how do we do? I mean, obviously tomorrow will tell a lot, but what do we think we know about Georgia right now?
Well, I think they got one of the top front sevens. Their defensive line, their linebackers, I think it has a chance to be one of their best ever. That's how good they are. Their secondary, I still think we got to figure out a little bit. And then their offense, I think there's still a lot of question marks. What is their identity on offense, right? Who's going to be that go-to playmaker? I think they're trying to figure that out with their receivers, with their tight ends. They're very talented, but when they get to play a Bama, when they play Florida in a few weeks, what is going to be their identity? I think you're seeing Alabama find theirs, Florida find theirs, Ole Miss find theirs, Arkansas finding theirs a little bit. Now Georgia, what is that going to be? Because they're so talented and so well coached, but you have to have a go-to guy on offense. Right. You have to have a go-to scheme. And I just don't know what that is. Not that they can't have one or they won't be successful. I still think they have so much talent that anybody can step up. But I think we've seen that as a weakness for Georgia over the years, is they get into that big game, and now all of a sudden that 3 yards in a cloud of dust doesn't work, and they don't necessarily have an identity to go to. And I'm excited to see, because I think what the defense they're going up against is really good in Arkansas. So it's going to be a fun defensive battle to watch.
What's the key to this game in terms of determining the winner?
Yeah, I think it's going to be deep shots on both sides of the ball. If you look at Arkansas, they need to be able to take the shots to loosen up Georgia up front. But I will say my eyeballs are on Georgia, because I truly believe that we're going to find out if they are a national championship contending team or not. And it's going to be based on the offense, because Arkansas is really good on defense. They're going to do the same thing Clemson did. They're going to play three safeties back. They're going to play over the top, and they're going to say, we're not going to let you take those shots. You're going to have to grind out this game. And Georgia didn't do that well. Their best player was Brock Bowers week 1 against Clemson, because they couldn't get over the top. They had to dink and dunk, and that wasn't their style of game. So they need to be able to hit some shots downfield. If they can't, I think that I don't think they're a contender. So I'm looking at Georgia. I know your defense is elite, but can this offense be elite? Has that question been answered? Go all the way back to last year. It hasn't. No. They're good. They're good at times. They hit big plays against inferior defensive players and schemes, and against really good defenses, they've just been okay. So this is a good defense, and this is a scheme that can beat Georgia's offense. Now, can Arkansas score enough points? Because I don't think throwing the ball downfield is their strength either. So that will determine who can hit a few big chunk plays through the air, and that'll tell me if Georgia is a team that's set up to actually make a legitimate run at it or not.
Again, Arkansas, though, certainly is the story of the country when it comes to being a college football surprise, but what they got Saturday in Athens, by far their biggest test of the year. College game day is there for this clash of the Titans, I suppose, in Athens.
This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make, gonna be great.
I try not to get into the pose. I see it as another team, and somebody else is just somebody in the way.
We got a taste of winning, and we want to keep winning, man. We got a lot on the line.
They're going to give you their best, and that's what we want. We want competition. We want to see the best.
I feel like all the pressure's on Georgia. We just coming in, hard work, blue collar, just want to knock them off.
The stakes are high anytime you play in the SEC, especially when you got two teams in the top 10 matched up together in Sanford Stadium. It makes it special.
The odds are stacked against us, and it's just how we like it. Coming in this Saturday, gonna try to shock the world.
Yeah, it is a massive, massive game. And look, you get two of the top defenses in the SEC. Georgia first in total defense, Arkansas sitting at third. But while they dominate similarly, I know they are not necessarily built similarly. You've taken a close look at Arkansas on that side.
Not only are they not built similarly, they got different types of players, but Dan Lanning calls the game different than Barry Odom. But I'll tell you what, when you pop on the film, it doesn't matter what This is sweet to watch, CD. And when you look at this, especially with Arkansas right now, they're going to be built on a 3-man rush. If you look at this right now, they're going to drop 8. On the left side of the screen, you see a 3-on-2. On the right, you see a 4-on-3. Now, Texas is going to try a little what we call a screen and go. A little spot screen. The linebacker is going to drop out, but the spot screen to the right now is trying to get Arkansas defenders to bite. Watch the 2 receivers. They look like they're going to block, but then they take off. You know what? It fools the secondary 0. Great job by the corner. Great job by the secondary. And all of a sudden, a 3-man rush gets to the quarterback. Big man makes the play. Here we go. Look at the same thing. On the right side of the defense, you got man-to-man coverage. Backer on the tailback, corner on the wideout. This is 3rd down in the A&M game. But look at the other side. Basically, you have 6 defenders to defend 3 receivers. Everybody has their eyes on the quarterback. It's vision coverage. Everybody's in the pickup. Guess what? The pocket's clean right now, but there's nowhere to go with the ball. And this is where you see Trey Williams come up with a huge sack. Guys, it's 3-man rush the majority of the time. He has no problem doing that. 8 guys in coverage, everybody looking at the quarterback. But you know what, CD, is awesome? They execute it flawlessly, and that's why you see all these sacks with 3-man rush.
Yeah, it's so fun to watch when anything is done at a high level, and certainly we watched him last year do it at a high level, but I feel like that sort of defense fits the personality of their coach, right? Sam Pittman sitting out on the front step there having a glass of lemonade, while Georgia's defense does it much differently. They are aggressive, shot out of a cannon like Popeye the Sailor Man with a can of spinach, sucking it down, right? Well, let's take a look at what they did in the first game of the season. Single high safety is telling the quarterback that the leverage is going to be on the outside because he's got help on the inside. But what happens is the safety rolls to the half field. They play a 2-trap coverage, which now allows Chris Smith to play on the inside. So DJ Uiagalelei thinks he's got an easy throw on the slant route that's going to beat that outside leverage. But again, Smith able to jump it, take the ball to the house. Maybe the biggest play of the first week of the season as Georgia gets their only touchdown on the defensive side of the ball. Now, when the game's on the line, what do? 4th and 5, they bring pressure, a 5-man pressure with 4 in the box and the safety coming down. Look at the super control double gap there by the down tackle, and they bring linebacker safety with a good old-fashioned 2-on-1 on the guard. The guard can't be right here. He tries to take the first rusher, but the second one and eventually the first one come free, forcing the incompletion there. I love the aggressiveness, Chiz. I love the way, again, much like what you talked about Arkansas, they execute flawlessly. They do a great job with technique, with their assignments. They just do it with a little different level of aggression.
And to me, that's what separates both of these guys from every other defense I've seen in our conference is the level of execution. Doesn't matter who the players are or what kind of defense they're running.
Yeah.
It's the level of execution for both of these teams.
Both units, too. And the way that they're built and the way they operate, incredibly fun to watch. And we'll get to enjoy that at noon Eastern on ESPN. Again, as I mentioned, it is also the site of College Game Day.
Between the Hedges in Athens, a top 10 showdown. Most famous Florida in football. And we need the stadium to be worse than bunkers on Saturday afternoon. The big old Razorbacks coming down. How are we going to stop them? Big fan of Larry.
I love that.
Big fan of Larry Munson.
I love that, man.
The late, great
and
Larry
they had a
Munson.
great show on the SEC Network.
They did.
It was
Yeah.
all of different voices throughout the SEC. Kenny Chesney did that.
You know, the voices that
love that.
openly rooted for their team with great
Why
passion.
not?
Nobody loved the dogs
Yeah.
like Larry Munson. Arkansas coming in here, though, hoping to wreck things. Arkansas performed well against the Texas A&M defense last week, and now against the Georgia defense has scored more touchdowns than they've allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I think early in this game, I'm really interested to see how these offenses try to get their footing because Georgia's defense is playing with as much confidence, I think, as anybody. And, you know, it starts up front. Their defensive line is so athletic, so powerful, so deep. So they're able to rotate, which will be big, I think, in this game against Kendall Bryle's system of trying to go tempo to try to wear down big guys like that right there. But I think there's knowledge and understanding. The Kobe Dean in the middle is really the quarterback and the architect of making sure everybody's on the same page. But do not, as we know, sleep on what they're doing defensively with Barry Odom. Arkansas, I think, brings the defense in. They're playing. It's a combination of either a 3-2-6, 3-3-5, 4-2-5. They do so many different things. The bottom line is they're flying to the football. They're not giving up the big plays. So I think Georgia, no matter who the quarterback is, they're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to rely on the running game. They're going to have to hit the throws short and intermediate and rely on those receivers to pick up some yards after the catch.
You always have to adapt, and you wonder whether both offenses will end up adapting with K.J. Jefferson, though he came back in the game getting dinged up against A&M. And obviously everyone knows about J.T. Daniels and the lat situation that he's dealing with. Maybe Stetson Bennett again.
It is What to Watch For, presented by Liberty Mutual. Sam Pittman spent 4 seasons as Georgia's offensive line coach. The surprise head coaching hire at Arkansas has changed everything about that program. A program he takes back to Athens with a shot to knock off number 2. Holly Rowe working that game on Saturday for ESPN.
When Arkansas visits Georgia, there's some great storylines. The Arkansas head coach, Sam Pittman, used to work at Georgia for Kirby Smart. In fact, he recruited many of the offensive linemen that he'll play against on Saturday. He said, I wouldn't be the head coach if it wasn't for Kirby Smart going to bat for me, lobbying for me. There's a lot of love between these men, just not when they kick it off on Saturday. The other storyline is the quarterback health for both teams. JT Daniels has a grade 1 lat strain. He has been hit and miss at practice this week. Some days feeling great, other days not so much. Kirby Smart is calling him a game-time decision. And for Arkansas, their great quarterback, KJ Jefferson, has a knee issue. He got hit hard last week. He had a big brace this week in practice, slimmed it down to a sleeve, and he said, I'll be ready to rock and run with the football on Saturday between the hedges.
Morning arrives in Athens, and a high noon showdown is coming between the hedges on what could be a revolutionary day. Arkansas invades with an eye on turning Athens into hog heaven. Could it be that the elite, they break out the Savage pads and they stamp down the uprising? Dogs can set the tone early against the Razorbacks, or maybe this will be a seismic day, a changing of the guard for the season. We won't know that by the end of the day. But if this is a day for revolution, gotta start someplace, right? Might as well be here. It feels like a special day on this stage. Those hedges planted in 1929. The most famous flora in football, a 5,000 square foot rectangle, provides the stage. The stage that is going to be loud and rocking by the time the stadium is filled just around noon for Georgia and Arkansas. We're here on Myers Quad in the heart of the Georgia campus. They've been here since before the sun came up, getting ready for this electric day against their old offensive line coach Sam Pittman and the Hogs. Glad to have you with us on College Game Day. Reese Davis, Desmond Howard, Kirk Herbstreit, and Lee Corso. I don't know, you might know this, but the original plan for Sanford Stadium, where the hedges are, they wanted to plant roses. But as it turns out, they didn't think roses would thrive here, so they went with hedges. You know who thrives here? The dogs thrive here. The dogs thrive here.
Listen, Arkansas is 4-0 for the first time in 8 years. They are confident. They are ready to get the big upset against the dogs. Woo! Pig suey! Pig suey!
Dude, we just got here.
How'd I do?
I mean, you're crazy. Opening comment. Right. I thought you were going to do it 3 times. SEC football, always a huge home field advantage, despite what you're saying about the upset. The Dogs, even on an early kick, their fans will be ready to rock and roll today. But this Arkansas team, man, they are fun to watch.
Hey, fun to watch, very physical. I think there may be 2 targeting penalties today. I hope they pick the flags up and leave the guys in the game. I think it's going to be a very physical contest. I was at the football building yesterday. I tell you what, the Dogs are ready for this matchup this afternoon. Guys, I can't wait till these 2 teams take the field today.
It's not just the biggest games, too. This is the first day in the history of the AP poll that we've had 4 ranked matchups pitting teams that are at least 3-0 or better. Arkansas and Georgia, watch for Traylon Smith to go outside. They want to try to neutralize Jordan Davis inside, and they've got to hit these deep shots. KJ Jefferson to Traylon Burks. Hogs lead the Power 5, 18 yards per completion. Now, JT Daniels may be hurting a little bit. Does that make Brock Bowers, the freshman tight end, an even bigger story? Now, get the picture. A showdown between the hedges, and Kirby Smart wants the stadium to be worse than bonkers.
When you got two teams in the top 10 matched up together in Sanford Stadium, it makes it special.
93,000 fans in the stadium. You're going to have to come ready to play.
Leaders play hard. Follow the guy that plays hard.
No one thought we would be where we are right now.
4-0, Woo Pig Suey.
We got a taste of winning, and we want to keep winning.
You're either elite or you're not.
Because we're such a huge underdog tells you how good Georgia is.
They're going to give you their best. That's what we want. We want competition. We want to see the best.
And Georgia is on its way. This is a live shot from the Bulldogs team bus. Kirby Smart and the Dogs on their way to the Dog Walk, where they'll go into Sanford Stadium and take on Arkansas noon on ESPN. Just after that, Pizza Hut counting us down to kickoff. Of course, the ultimate goal for all of these elite teams is the College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. And Sam Pittman's very familiar with the surroundings. Thought he was going to finish his career here as the Georgia offensive line coach. All smiles right now, but the serious looks will come soon. His quarterback is KJ Jefferson, got dinged up against Texas A&M last week, says he's good to go. Look at the yard per pass attempt, nearly 11 yards, and he's also a dangerous runner as well. We'll see how healthy he looks in the pregame also. As for Georgia, typically they go to a movie the night before the game, but with a noon kickoff, they had to hit the sack a little bit earlier. But for the Dogs, at least today, the alarm clock carries just as much drama. That's when they find out how their quarterback, JT Daniels, and that tender lat will feel. We'll watch him during warm-ups. Holly Roll with the Bulldogs head coach, Kirby Smart.
Well, Coach, you asked your fans to get here early, and so they have. Their students are pouring in. How cool is this?
It's really awesome. I love it. Our fans are incredible, and I thank them a lot.
All right, you've got a situation at quarterback today, a minor injury to JT Daniels. How will you plan for your quarterbacks to be utilized today?
Well, it all depends on how JT does in warm-ups. He's been able to go some this week. We're hopeful he's able to go, but we'll see in warm-ups.
All right, you've been trying to get your defense's attention. Everybody thinks they're the best defense in the world right now, but they face a tough challenge with the quarterback, run game, and tempo today. How have you prepared them for that?
Well, we prepare for that all the time because so many teams do it, but we've really had heightened awareness this week because the athleticism of the quarterback and the tempo the offense uses. We've got to play a lot of players.
Thank you so much. This is cool what you've got building here. This is cool.
Awesome. Go Dogs.
Thank you.
Well, the Dogs have been going much better on offense since that opener against Clemson, but a lot of people struggle against that vaunted Tiger defense. You see how they played the last three games. But there is this. Georgia's longest rush this year, LC, is by a wide receiver, 24 yards. 7 of the 16 20-yard passes have been thrown by someone other than their starting quarterback. But, LC, are you worried? Are you worried about Georgia?
No, I'm not worried.
No.
Georgia's ranked number 2 in the nation, but I think they're the most complete football team in the nation, period.
wow.
The most complete football team, period. And our offense, the last 3 games, they averaged 52 points a game. And on defense, they're the number 1 defensive team in the nation, and they got special teams that's good. Arkansas has got 2 chances this year. Slim and none. Slim and none.
You were saying Woo Pig earlier.
He was. We just started the show by saying Woo Pig. I tell you, that's a good point, Coach, especially about the special teams. I think they play a key role in today's game. When I look at Georgia's offense, I think you look at Georgia's quarterback, JT Daniels. He's played a lot of football. He's very experienced. That's going to be key because you look at this Arkansas defense, they run a funky configuration, a 3-3 stack. And I was told by some of the players that they have the best scout team to prepare him for the look he's going to see today. But that's going to be a really different, unique look, Kirk, that they're going to see on defense.
The 3-3-5, and we just talked about with Coach Saban, and how it prevents the big play.
Right.
But before, you think 3 down linemen, it'd be hard to defend against the run. And actually, you take a look at some of this film, you can see that they do a really good job of getting after the run because this 3 down linemen.
Yeah.
But watch the linebackers and how they set the edge. Look how physical they are at the line of scrimmage. I can't wait to see that aspect. And look how they fly to the ball. They fly to the football.
Yeah, they come down the field hard, and they feel those gaps. Great eye discipline.
I think this is going to be a big key today is can they eat the blocks up? The defensive linemen against Georgia's run. Look how they eat the double team. You have 2 blockers on all 3 D linemen. What that does is it frees those linebackers.
Yeah.
Free those linebackers. Let 31 and 27 and 10 get after it today.
It's a great picture. It's a lousy offense.
Hold on. This is what we're talking about.
He's calling you out on the
This
offense.
is against the pass, right? You got 3 deep. Reese can show you here. 3 deep and 5 under. So Texas, where are the holes in this defense when you're throwing? Look at the 5 guys underneath.
Yeah.
And they're 3 deep. They're not going to let you go behind them.
And look at
They're making you throw underneath, and then you rally to the ball.
Yeah.
No man-to-man. Everything is zone. And when you play zone, it creates tight windows, right? For the
100%.
quarterback to have to look at. And whoops, one last one here. I want to get one last one.
Those
The tight windows for the quarterback makes it. Well, I guess we're done there.
Hey, let me tell you, that's the same defense we used to use in the 50s.
That's what I'm saying. Everything's
in the 50s.
It's crazy.
3 deep zone, keep everything in front of you. Boom.
But people need to understand that's very different. Everybody's been playing man-to-man and mixing in zone.
Yeah.
Now, today with Arkansas, give 3 guys back, eyes on the ball. The 5 guys underneath, eyes on the ball.
Right.
Don't give up the big one.
Yeah.
Make them throw underneath, and then run. All 8 guys run like crazy to the football.
Well, that's something Pollock's talked about this week. The way they don't just run at the football.
Hair on fire.
Hair on fire and
Yeah.
causing a
Yeah.
wreck coming
Yeah.
to the football. And remember, they picked off Matt Corral the week after Alabama last year 6 times.
Yeah.
6. Got to be patient. Got much more on this game coming up. What a triple header we have coming up for you. Arkansas and Georgia. College Game Day takes you right up to kickoff on the field. I saw these dudes coming in before the sun was up this morning. You know how early you have to get up to get painted up like that? That's a good point. Our producer, Jim Galliero, says, who said they went to bed? Let's go. Let's keep it going. That'll be after the game. After.
Early kick, they can afford that.
Oh, yeah. Doing season. Excited to be back with the fans checking on this week's Home Depot Tailgate Pro. Jake Trowell from Jasper, Georgia. I mean, there are a lot of dogs and friends. Once again, they think it's time for the big dog to eat, but maybe Arkansas is going to sneak in here, upset the whole power structure of the season. Time for today's high five moment brought to you by Peloton. You know what the high five moment for Arkansas is? When Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director, hired Sam Pittman as the head coach.
Very true.
Look what he's been able to do here in the first 4 games. They have been the story of September so far. The Arkansas head coach and erstwhile Georgia offensive line coach with Holly Rowe a short time ago.
Here with Arkansas coach Sam Pittman, and you've walked into this stadium many times, but not through the visitors' tunnel. What was it like today coming back to where you've worked so hard?
Well, I have a lot of friends here, and Kirby was good to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing the fans, and I just visited with one of my neighbors a while ago. They got down here somehow.
So many good feelings surrounding your return, but once the ball's kicked off, it's not going to be a good feeling. Tell me about the competitive nature of your team right now.
Well, we play hard, and that's got to be our staple of our football team. We play hard. We know we have a great opponent today, have a lot of respect for them, but that's why you play the games. We'll see what happens.
KJ Jefferson has been terrific for you at quarterback, but he got banged up last week. What do you expect from his ability to move and run with the football and be a good quarterback today?
I think we'll find out a little bit more in pregame, kind of see how he's doing, but he's practiced for the most part, limited this week.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you a lot. Have a good day.
Thanks.
How do you not love that? The whole, I don't care. Forget the SEC, Arkansas. Like, if you're a UCLA or anybody, how do you not love that guy?
That's a dude.
Yeah.
Answers everything, honest.
I mean,
That's why they play so hard. You know what?
Send your kid to play there.
If they win today, they haven't won a top 10 matchup on the road since 1964.
That should have been a trivia question.
Doug Embiid, number 1. The Bears in charge of those now. It's sponsored and everything. Back here in Athens, we've got a tremendous crowd going to make our way shortly into Sanford Stadium between the hedges. Look at the sign. Hey, little man's first Georgia game. Good for him. That's a
Have
good
a good
one.
time, buddy.
Come on, man. Let's see if he can heal his own laugh.
Yeah,
That's
no
what
doubt.
they'd really like to see today. Of course, there's an old picture of you, LC.
Sometimes I do not believe that whatsoever.
It's an ornery pig. is what it is.
They're just like swinging.
That's just
swinging out here.
That's low-hanging fruit, though, right? Oh, no. Oh, man. Pig suing.
Oh, okay. Ooh, big.
Ooh, right? Right? Look at the giant eyes on Miss Piggy there. Where in Kansas is Arkansas?
Oh, God. Les Miles. Cue Les Miles.
I'm completely uncomfortable with this.
That's nice.
I'm staying away from anybody with lightning. Okay, he's got that sign. KJ Jefferson.
Left his eyebrows.
Oh, that's
a lot.
That's a long sign.
That's
it takes
a lot.
a while.
By the time we read that,
It's more efficient.
next game.
The signs.
Somebody call a ambulance. I think that looks delicious.
Des always first one in line for that swine. He loves it.
This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make, gonna be great.
I try not to get into the pose. I see it as another team and somebody else is just somebody in the way.
We got a taste of winning, and we want to keep winning, man. You know, we got a lot on the line.
They're going to give you their best, and that's what we want. We want competition. We want to see the best.
I feel like all the pressure's on Georgia. We just coming in, hard work, blue collar, just want to knock them off.
Stakes are high anytime you play in the SEC, especially when you got two teams in the top 10 matched up together in Sanford Stadium. It makes it special.
The odds are stacked against us, man. It's just how we like it. Coming in this Saturday, gonna try to shock the world.
The Razorbacks have only beaten the Bulldogs twice in 11 meetings since joining the SEC. As you're watching Dog Walk there, about an hour and 42 minutes from kickoff. Here's Holly Rowe with Kirby Smart. We'll get to Holly in just a second. We're trying to get that one figured out. By the way, Dog Walk, you think that atmosphere is rocking and rolling? Looks great, Paul.
It looks like the Olympics or something.
There was an Olympics in 1996 in Atlanta. I am hearing that we may have this interview. You guys tell me, do we have it or do we not? We do not have it. So instead, we're going to talk about the game. Good talk. Let's start with Arkansas, Tim, because you've been so impressed by the way that Sam Pittman has coached this team. They've been such a great story in college football, but why is that?
I think it starts with culture. I think it starts with the culture of being transparent, honor, and loving of his players, and I think they've reciprocated that by playing as hard as possible, by playing above their talent level, playing together. I mean, I don't see a team in college football that plays consistently as hard as Arkansas plays, with the violence, with the focus, with the leadership. I mean, it's every single play. It's every single special teams play. They never take a play off. That comes from buy-in of the coaches, and that's why you have, I think right now, when you look at who would be the coach of the year? Right now, it has to be Sam Pittman.
Easily. I feel like culture gets thrown around all the time. Very cavalier. It is so hard to get a culture right. It is not easy. Everyone likes to say it. It's a buzzword, but Sam Pittman has actually developed a culture of winning. I mean, this team isn't that much different than it was a year and a half ago.
They're not.
What do we find out about Georgia today?
It's going to be interesting because of that culture, because of Arkansas's talent and Sam Pittman and what he's done there combined. We find out if Georgia is actually a national championship contender or not. I think this is a make or break game for them because their defense is elite. Their offense hasn't been elite. When's the last, even all the way back to last year, at the end of the year with JT, it was still just okay, right? They're not generating the type of explosive plays downfield. And Arkansas has only allowed 2 passes thrown 20 or more yards downfield. If Georgia can't get explosive plays, this is going to be the style of football that Sam Pittman and Arkansas wants, grind it out.
It's going to look like the game against Clemson.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Paul, go ahead and we'll get to the sound.
I don't want to be Ebenezer Scrooge here on the second.
Bring us back in, Paul. Bring us back down to earth.
Because, I mean...
We got Tiny Tim right here, so go ahead.
That was a good one.
Sam Pittman won September, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but let's check back in a couple of weeks when you take a good look at this Arkansas schedule, because if they don't do what we all have seen them do already, they could get derailed today. They have a brutal game next week, and suddenly we're looking at it a little bit differently. But I know I'll be crushed for. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying let's stem
you Scrooge.
the
Bah humbug.
Bah humbug, Sam
All right.
Pittman.
So let's hear what Holly Rowe and Kirby Smart have to say, because I want you guys to listen to what they say about the quarterbacks.
Well, Coach, you asked your fans to get here early, and so they have. Their students are pouring in. How cool is this?
It's really awesome. I love it. Our fans are incredible, and I thank them a lot.
All right, you've got a situation at quarterback today, a minor injury to JT Daniels. How will you plan for your quarterbacks to be utilized today?
Well, it'll depend on how JT does in warm-ups. He's been able to go some this week. We're hopeful he's able to go, but we'll see in warm-ups.
All right, you've been trying to get your defense's attention. Everybody thinks they're the best defense in the world right now, but they face a tough challenge with the quarterback, run game, and tempo today. How have you prepared them for that?
Well, we prepare for that all the time because so many teams do it, but we've really had heightened awareness this week because the athleticism of the quarterback and the tempo of the offense used. We've got to play a lot of players.
Thank you so much. This is cool what you've got building here. This is cool.
Awesome. Go Dogs.
All right, so Tim, as we're listening to Holly with Coach there, and this game at noon, by the way, he's saying that JT Daniels are going to decide in warm-ups. What's your reaction to hearing that?
My reaction is, if I'm a Georgia fan, I would be a little bit more nervous. I mean, I'm not sold on JT. I think he's very talented, but he's only played a handful of games.
Yeah.
But if you have to go back to Stetson Bennett, I think he's an amazing story. I think he's got a lot of grit, a lot of toughness. But his talent level is not on the same level as a lot of these
Beck also an option, but hasn't had a lot of playing
he's a baby.
Right.
And he's going to be a really good player. But I think if it was a different scheme, if you were playing a defense that played man coverage where you don't have to go through as many progressions, it's different. When you're playing this 38 double cloud that Arkansas
they're going to play
runs,
over the top, they're going to play everything in front.
Every single play is going to have to be a split-second decision of fitting it in a window or not, pulling it down or not. And yes, you might have some guys throughout the game that are going to make some big plays for you, but it is a lot of tough decisions as a quarterback. We saw last week, Zach Calzada was not ready for that moment.
Yeah.
If it's a Stetson Bennett.
And by the way, can we just squash the thing like they're going to figure out in warm-ups? They know he's going to play or not. That sounded not good to me. It didn't sound like a coach that was confident in the health.
I don't think he's playing. Let's just go ahead and say it. Stetson Bennett's going to be playing quarterback. So now as a team, what do you do to move on from there? And for me, Georgia has more questions going into this game than Arkansas does. You know exactly who Arkansas is defensively. You know exactly who they're offensively. But Georgia, how do you score points versus this Arkansas defense? That's going to line up with 3 down linemen, play fast on defense. They want you to throw it down in front of them. They're going to see how tough you are. And that's what you got to do.
This game was already fascinating, and I think there was already upset alert on a lot of people's minds. I think a lot of it changed even more as we heard that from
gas in
Kirby
my
Smart.
bus.
Let's take a look at the West. Who are you guys watching this week? Tim, we start with you.
For me, it's got to be KJ Jefferson, quarterback of Arkansas. He really stepped up last week. He made some nice throws, but he really carries the team with his legs. That's where this team operates. That's where this team likes to be, is winning on the ground. They've done a really good job of controlling their ground game, but if he can't go, if that leg is a little stiff, if he's a little slow, if he doesn't have that power, it's not the same offense. It's not the same running game. Therefore, it's not going to be the same passing game.
On SEC Nation, you're looking at JT Daniels not in pads. Now, for clarification, the rest of the team isn't yet either, but we have been told he's a game-time decision or a warm-up decision. Also, KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas quarterback, in the same situation. Tim, this is enormous.
I think it's huge. I think for a lot of people that are evaluating have to pick the game, and you're looking at it's very different if it's KJ Jefferson against JT Daniels versus Stetson Bennett against Malik Hornsby. I mean, you're evaluating everything differently. The game plans have to be different.
And I think it's a bigger impact for Georgia if it's Stetson Bennett, because I think they can operate with Malik Hornsby and still run the football.
Yeah.
Hey,
yes.
George, as you guys are watching him right now, it looks to me, I don't know if he's grimacing.
That's pain.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It's a lat muscle injury. Obviously, they're trying to see if he can even do anything at all. But it felt like to us, when you heard from Kirby Smart earlier, that they're not feeling confident in JT Daniels playing in this game. And also, I'll mention again, KJ Jefferson, game-time decision too.
Not only that, Laura, but when you're lateral injury, when you're in here through a cord, you can't shoot that up with painkillers either. For those and know what you do and whatever you have to do. You can't do that. It's too close.
I mean, they can try.
No, they try.
Don't do
it.
Can't do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not it. So
All right.
it's going to be very important to see it. I think JT Daniels does not play. Looking at his face and the way he's doing it, and you got Stetson Bennett for a reason. He has played in these big moments. He was your
Hasn't
quarterback
played well,
last year. He has played in the moments though.
Yeah,
And defensively, you know who you are, and Georgia can win any game because of their defense. Let's not forget that.
We're not yet to the point where the College Football Playoff Committee starts ranking things, but you do think they would look back at this game if we do have two backup quarterbacks in there and take that into consideration. Either way, it's fascinating on both sides. Let's get
sold out Sanford Stadium will be rocking.
It starts today. Get your minds right to beat the number 2 team in the nation.
Do not fall victim to the disease. We can't be beat. When we go out here to set our jaw, it's a physical ass war. Remember, when you do common things in an uncommon way, you demand the attention of the world. Touchdown, Dogs! Pick 6, Georgia!
To get where we want to go, you can't be satisfied where you're at.
4-0 for the Razorbacks.
Turn that down, Drew Butler!
It ain't about how you look, it's about how you hit. It's gonna be a safety. The Razorbacks, they are just running wild. We lead. It's time to find out.
And welcome inside Sanford Stadium. Well, the game day guys make their way in here. A chance to reset what is a monster day in the Southeastern Conference. Total of 6 conference games, 2 top 12 showdowns, including the one right here between the Hogs and the Dogs. Welcome to Vince Dooley Field, a beautiful place to be on a Saturday afternoon. This close-cut Bermuda grass, ringed by the famous privet hedges, a look that's been copied by a half dozen SEC stadiums. But the main feature in here, 96,000 fans. Going to be the 54th consecutive sellout. The fans have been urged to be here on time and make noise at high noon. The students are already here and ready to go. It'll be a tough environment. Arkansas's got a veteran team, a lot of those super seniors. They are a battle-scarred group, but this is their first true road test of the season. If things don't go well early, could be a problem. The group that expects to benefit off all this crowd energy, of course, is that Georgia Bulldogs defense. You know how nasty they've been through the first 4 games. They've shut down 4 offenses, but statistically, the Hogs are by far the best offense they've faced. Georgia's got everything you want in the defense. They're strong, they're fast, they're smart, they're well coached, they're deep. They have an intangible that they've hammered home all through the offseason. The connection, the chemistry between this group is what makes them play so hard. Now, Kirk had a chance this week to sit down with 5 of the top Dogs defenders, got a close-up look at that connectivity.
This isn't a bad facility you guys got here. This is like an apartment, like you want to hang out in here.
It's a bunch of new stuff everywhere, but believe me, we using it all. We're using it all. There ain't nothing in here just for looks. Just for show. Just for show.
Well, let's go in here and hang out. Get to know you guys as people, not just players.
This Georgia defense, they are legit. They love to create havoc and get after the quarterback.
My name is Lewis. I'm 3rd year. I'm a safety.
Number
16. Channing Tundra, number 41, inside linebacker. I love Kookaburra wings from Outback. My thing, with some blue cheese. Nolan Smith, number 4, outside linebacker, part of the Wolfpack, Wolfpack members.
Kobe Dean, inside linebacker, number 17. And I'm from Mississippi, the only guy from Mississippi on the team.
Adam Anderson, outside linebacker, number 19. You can call me Deuce or Double A.
What one word do you feel like describes this defense?
Connected.
Connected.
Probably more connected than the former defenses.
We like family, like outside of even football, like we always hang, like we're always together.
Not to put down the previous defenses, but is that every year, or is this a little bit different this year?
This whole team is just connected more this year. I feel like I can call up more than 90% of the guys I want to hang out. They'll hit me up and they'll go hang out with me.
We took that to a whole nother level, like off the field. If Adam was moving out his house, I know Adam would call me, okay, let's go, let's move. And we just built a connection that we don't even know. Then when we get on the field, we thinking the same thing already.
Like even if I'm not in, I'm cheering Nolan, I'm cheering Lewis, I'm cheering anybody on my team knowing that if he's making a sack or an interception or play like that, shoot, that basically me out there basically getting that.
What would you say the overall mentality is of this defense?
Whatever he called on third down, we run. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we all wrong, we all right. He right, we right. We gonna play whatever Nakobe Dean called.
It's not too much going back and forth. It's like, okay, everybody on the same page, be on the right page.
No ego.
Pressured and dropped again is Uyunglele.
And Doty sets up, he's sacked, and the ball is out.
Why don't you guys all tell me something that we don't know about somebody in this group right now?
I'll say one thing about Nakobe. He eat spaghetti and fried fish.
Catfish.
Fried catfish.
That's a Mississippi
That don't
thing.
go
Spaghetti and
don't
catfish
go
go
together.
together.
That does
Catfish
not
and
go
grits.
together. Catfish and grits. You ever seen Nakobe weight lift?
No.
That boy squat a house.
Is he the strongest pound for pound, you think?
Oh, yeah, yes, for sure.
Overall, the defense has been terrific, doesn't take a back seat to anybody.
How many of you guys had to pay your dues before you became the position you're in right now?
Everybody.
What does it do to you to make you appreciate the position you're in, the fact that you didn't walk in here as a freshman and get the role that you're in now?
At first it was a little frustrating, but it's just putting your head down and humbling yourself and just working. It makes it so much sweeter because nothing was handed to me.
But it makes you hungry. Like it light that fire. We ain't never not stop working.
The outside world, name, image, likeness, individuality, all about me. How in the world are you guys all about each other?
I 100% say that mindset when we walk into the locker room and we talk to each other and we look each other in the eyes, and I tell everybody before the game, they know. I tell them I love you because I know they gonna fly around. They gonna do all the things right. I just want them to know that I trust you and I love you.
It's a fun defense to watch. I promise you, even better in person than they are on tape. They've actually scored more points this year than they've allowed. And Kirk, looked like a fun visit with those guys. You cannot put a price on that kind of leadership and that kind of connection and chemistry with the defense, can you?
Not at all.
You know, I think, Chris, every defensive coordinator in the country, when they get into camp, you hope to develop that kind of chemistry. You don't coach chemistry. You can recruit it, you can create culture, but that is a group of players. Forget how good they are and what their physicalities bring to the table. It's about the intangibles, the genuine, authentic love that they have for each other. That's why when they get into adversity into a game, oh my gosh, that defense will keep them in every single game that they play, and it's going to be challenging for Arkansas to get KJ Jefferson in that running game because they got to run and then hit the
that jacks you up, doesn't it?
Oh man, that's old school. That mentality right there. I could sit there and talk to those guys all day about that love and we missed that last year in college football. Yeah. And that's an example of what's back now in the game, especially on defense.
Well, and you hear them say a couple things that stuck out to me. Like you hear them say that they celebrate for each other. That's not everywhere. There's a lot of people that celebrate by themselves.
Yep.
Right. They celebrate with each other. They tell each other they love each other.
Have each other's back.
When you know something, you just know something's good gonna happen. That something good's gonna happen. We had that at Georgia when I was there in my years. Like we just knew we were gonna make a play. Yeah. You can't replace that. That confidence. It's amazing how much it follows you when you know it's gonna happen and you have that belief. And they got it. So it's working all right, Des.
100%. I tell you what, I spoke to a coach that had to prepare for Georgia's defense. He said, Desmond, I don't know how to really phrase it other than they play with a lot of pride. He said, when you watch this defense play, it's just a tremendous amount of pride on the field. I mean, they fly around, they play well together, they're very selfless, and they understand the scheme. They play with a tremendous amount of pride and effort out there, Reese. So that's what jumps out at me when I watch this defense play.
Georgia is watching with the grimace, JT Daniels, but
every day
he soft tosses every day.
Every
right?
day, it's either a good day or a bad day.
Reading the facial reaction right there, I would not say that's a good day.
Yeah, because he threw Monday on a good day, Tuesday out, Wednesday through, Thursday out. So we'll see what's Saturday.
We can relate to that, by the way.
Saturday.
Everybody who's over 40 can relate to you wake up, you don't know if it's a good day or a bad day.
The big game at noon in the SEC, the top 10 matchup between Georgia and Arkansas. Already we've gotten news that both sides have game time or warm-up decisions at quarterback. You see JT Daniels, Jordan, and Stetson Bennett both in pads.
Yeah, I mean, we saw JT throwing earlier. He was grimacing. I mean, the lat muscle as a thrower can really give you issues. And as you get into the game, sometimes it tightens up and then just you're unable to throw the way you're used to. So if it is Stetson Bennett, game plan's got to be different. KJ
Jefferson also a pregame game time decision for Arkansas on the other side.
Well, this is a sea of red and black. We expect the stadium to be worse than bonkers, as the great Larry Munson used to say. When KJ Jefferson got to Arkansas, he thought a stage like this might be too big, might be too fast for him, and the truth is, Sam Pittman expected exactly the same thing. He was working the transfer portal, looking for a quarterback, until Jefferson made a believer out of him with a great performance against Missouri. And as a result, all of Jefferson's teammates and even the Georgia defense now believers in KJ Jefferson.
Arkansas's offense, they have players all over the board. The O-line move really well. They do so many things. They spread you out, but they're capable of running the ball.
With the defenders coming down, we'll be able to add out. Once we get that going, we're going to put up some numbers.
The quarterback, KJ Jefferson, pretty good, smart, has a strong arm.
Defense has been terrific, doesn't take a back seat to anybody. Throws again into traffic and it's picked off.
We've been successful forcing turnovers and causing havoc is what we talk about.
They get most of their money up front with the big guys up front, arresting QBs, stopping the run.
This might be the best defense that I've seen in a long time in college football, and that's saying a lot.
And it's saying a lot for sure. Arkansas has been terrific on the ground. Jefferson's the only quarterback in the SEC with 800 yards passing and more than 200 rushing. He's part of the running game. And look, they play Texas A&M, led the nation scoring defense going in last week, and now they get to take on Georgia.
Georgia is number 2 in the nation and leads the nation in scoring defense. And that defense has not allowed a touchdown at all this year. And remember one thing, Arkansas brings a big boy offense to Athens. They're going to test the manhood of that Georgia defense. They're going to test the manhood of that Georgia defense.
If you didn't hear me, they're going to test that manhood.
That's right. That means somebody's putting a hat on somebody. That's what that means.
That's right, Coach. I tell you what, this Arkansas offense, man, they're so dynamic, so explosive. They have a great quarterback in KJ Jefferson. Let me show what the Dogs defense is going to have to contend with this afternoon. Now, first thing you want to know is they're going to run this guy, 6'3", 240 pounds, and what they want to do is get an extra blocker. They motion the tight end across the formation. Guys, this is like a split zone look, and now you have 6'3", 240 pounds with a huge crease coming right at you. This is what the Dogs are going to have to deal with this afternoon. And if they don't get home, watch this defensive tackle. He's going to be so close to KJ, but KJ is so big and strong, even with a guy in his face, he can't step into the throw, but he throws it down the field 40 yards with accuracy. And then you got Burst. Watch Burst with this separation with his burst. He has another gear. He's one of the most dynamic receivers in college football right now. When you got a guy like Burst, guys, you got to want to hide him, right? So look at this formation. All the skilled players to the right. One guy shifts to the left. 2 more guys shift, but at the same time, they move Burst into the slot. And they're going to attack the safety in the 2 deep and the near hash. A little crossing route. Burst is taking his time, but watch this fantastic finish, how he catches the ball. And Kendall Browse knows the defense, they want to set their secondary to wherever number 16 is, so it's going to be very creative. And that's Jefferson right there. Now, Jefferson, guys, has missed some time in practice this week. He's a little banged up with a knee injury. But if he's going to go, he's going to give it everything that he has, and that's Burks right there. Before the season, people weren't talking about Burks. This guy is an emerging superstar right now in college football. They're going to move him around, get the ball in his hands. I think they have to start to get the running game going, too, with Smith. He averages about 5 yards per carry, just a dynamic back. This is their best offensive lineman, their center. Now, he's the guy, Stromberg, that's very physical, highly intelligent. He's going to have to read the defenses. Make sure you keep an eye on Stromberg, too.
Okay, we're inside 27 minutes until kickoff, and here inside Sanford Stadium, just announced on the video board, Stetson Bennett expected to start at quarterback for Georgia rather than JT Daniels. There's Stetson.
I think there was anticipation. David's been talking about living here in Athens and being a former great. He kind of has a feel, and we were around the team yesterday. You knew that this was more than a probability. I think with JT Daniels, he tried to go to see how it would feel. Clearly, it's not good enough. There are a lot of people that feel that Bennett, because of his wiggle, he's got ability to create, And if Arkansas gets pressure, he can get away from it. The thing I would say, David, is he's so competitive. He's got to be careful of just trying to take a chance and putting the ball into traffic. That's the one downside with him.
Well, and you said fast and wiggle. He hit 20 miles per hour on the GPS.
Yeah, he
so
can
that's
go.
really, really fast.
I love his spirit, though.
And the good thing is he came off the bench last year and beat Arkansas.
That's
so
right.
remember, he has a little bit of experience. But you know what he's also got? Some grown men on the defensive side of the football. Some grown, I can't even say what I want to say, man, on the other side of the football. And it's, watch this, guys. You want a double team, this is supposed to be a chip. Where I chip Jordan Davis and Devontae Watt, and I go to the second level and get a linebacker. How can I go to the second level? I can't. I got 315, 350 pounds in front of me, and then Nolan Smith who can hit you in the mouth. I can't do it. By the way, Jalen Carter will be a top 10 pick in the NFL. Watch this dude. 6'5", 6'4", 325 pounds.
I think he's their best defensive lineman.
No doubt. Rushes the passer like that. And then Channing Tyndale. Look at his speed, dude. Just look at this.
I know.
Look how inside of Will Shipley he is. And watch him just go, yak! Come over here, sit down right over there at the table. And then I think the blitz package they do with Nakobe Dean, this is the best blitzing linebacker I've seen in college football. Give him a little okey doke, step to the right, go to the left. This defense is a handful. Good luck.
That's one of the reasons that, especially with small sample size early in the season, that so many of the offenses that Georgia's faced are ranked so poorly. That disclaimer offered, they haven't really faced an explosive offense, even with Arkansas's capability.
Yeah, and I think Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, the reason they're important today is not just eating up those offensive linemen, but tempo today. Yeah. You know, how much does Kendall Briles fire that tempo up? The whole reason that they like tempo is to wear down a defense. Georgia's depth and rotating defensive linemen, I think, will be a big thing that they're going to want to try to do, especially in this heat and with the tempo that they're going to face.
You saw Pizza Hut counting us down to kickoff, headed toward 24 minutes until they tee it up just in time to get the Bear and the winner. Well, that's a lot of points. A lot of points you're getting with Blue Pig, Bear.
Yeah, I'm laying it, though. I mean, you got to take a step back. We're both here and at Ole Miss. You're really willing to take either A on the money line or the points with a team going on a true road game for the first time this year, and you're playing the two best teams in college football. I know that money line parlay is like 41-1, but I am with Georgia. Too much defense. I'm laying the points in. I think the Bulldogs win big.
What is it? Is it 17.5 right or 18.5?
It's actually bet down to like 16.5.
Even better. Bear likes it even more.
I think people are reacting to the JT Daniels not starting. So if you waited on Georgia, you're going to be rewarded today, I think.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Guys.
Here's an Arkansas team that we didn't know this was coming. So they routed Texas, about to win here over the number 17, and now they got a date in Athens with Georgia.
Straightening, yeah. Straightening, yeah.
That front line, you know, they D-line, man, they really got a good D-line, man, you know, a lot of old heads.
Relentless pass rush, they swarm him.
They play hard. You know, I should know. I went up against that Georgia defense every day for 4 years in a row.
Causing havoc is what we talk about. The reasons is because of the way they work. They practice the right way each day, and they commit to being different, being elite.
Brotherhood, connection, that's something we go off of almost every day.
This might be the best defense that I've seen in a long time in college football.
Okay, we just got word that Stetson Bennett has been announced as the starter there for Georgia today. JT Daniels dealing with the lat injury, so he was just announced as a starter. It's going to be his second start of the season. Jordan, you're raising your eyebrows as you see this. How does this change how you look at the game?
I mean, if I'm Arkansas's defense, I'm licking my chops right now. I mean, if you just look at what Georgia was not able to do last year, look at that Kentucky game, 14-3, only 14 points last year against Kentucky with Stetson. Why? They stayed over the top. They kept everything in front of him. They made him make great decisions down in and down out, and he hasn't really proven to be able to do that. So that is dangerous for Georgia.
Yeah, if I'm Kirby, if I'm one of the offensive coaches, I'm going over to Stetson. I'm saying, hey, you don't have to go win this thing, right?
No.
And when it is second, medium, third, and short, it's okay. Don't force it. He's a more athletic guy. Go get it with his legs. We forgot. Last year, he made some plays with his legs. I would be encouraging him. Hey, against this drop 8, hey, Arkansas, they're doing all this different zone drops. Hey, go get it with your legs.
Off. Get us 3 or 4.
Yes.
We're waiting for a little bit more information on KJ Jefferson on the other side, who also Sam Pittman said was a pregame warm-up, game-time decision. What we are hearing is that he's taking normal pregame reps. We'll update you on that momentarily. But Roman, 15 minutes away from kickoff there in Athens. How do you look at this game now with the information that Stetson Bennett will be the starter for Georgia?
Arkansas is juiced up. I got more energy on defense, and I'm ready to make a play. I'm Jalen Catalon. I haven't brought his name up all show, and I can't believe it. We only got 15 minutes, but he will be the difference maker. He's going against Bowers in the middle. If you can take away their tight end, what does Georgia have else? They have nothing else. And now with a backup quarterback in Stetson Bennett, the defense of Arkansas should step up.
Let's pick the game. Paul, you go first. Who you taking and why? And are we allowing people to change their picks? All right.
No.
Our producer, Michelle, says yes. Sorry, Jordan, you got overruled. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm not really panicking about picking Georgia because I think they've won everything on defense so far. We still haven't figured out what their identity on offense is. This hurts, but it is not going to change the outcome of the game.
I tell you what, Roman, even before the news, I picked Arkansas, so give me those keys to the bus because I'm on the bus. I think this defense plays huge, whether it was JT or Stetson. I think this is a bad matchup for Georgia's offense. Look, this is going to be an ugly game, low scoring, grind it out. Sam Pittman knows intimately how to attack that defense on the ground. So I got Arkansas, baby, like maybe 17-14.
Ooh.
Oh, I love it.
Tim, you're kind of struggling with this one.
Yeah, it makes me really nervous, the quarterback situation. Just honestly giving Arkansas a lot of momentum. If Stetson throws 1 or 2 times to him, it could totally change the game. But I'm still going to go with Georgia, and here's why. I don't think Arkansas can sustain drives. And offensively, when you can't sustain a drive, your defense is going to be out there more. Yeah. I think their defense is going to play great, but then get a little fatigued. And I think that might be when Georgia can hit 1 or 2 plays in the end to just be able to squeak it out.
I have been driving this Arkansas bandwagon since last year. And I got to tell you, I pulled up to this stadium in Sanford Stadium, and I looked at it, and we needed some gas. Jordan, hold my keys. Some gas this week. What? It's a push start. It's a push start. Don't worry about it. But
you're going Georgia?
I'm going Georgia.
Oh, my goodness.
Inside the hedges.
You can't do that.
I'm going Georgia. Georgia's going to win the game.
How could you be driving the bus?
Defense is the best thing I've seen.
That is sad.
It's
That's
the
why
best
you wore
thing I've seen
the black shirt with
in
the red
college
tie.
football all year long is Georgia's defense, and Georgia's defense will be the reason
but
why.
Your favorite player is Jalen Catalon.
The wheels on the bus, they keep going round and round, baby. We don't need you.
And there we go. Hey, you know what? That's
go sing children's songs.
That's
don't
a
go
perfect
chasing
transition
waterfalls.
because
We'll go win a game.
But they need that signature win, much like Arkansas is looking for today. We wonder what the gap is between the elite and the rest of the field. Well, today is going to help tell us. Arkansas with their 2 deep guys of super seniors and scrappy guys against Georgia's roster full of 5 stars eager to have Arkansas turn off that jukebox.
Coming out here with a statement, just knowing that we're the number 2 team in the nation. Also, we got to set a standard out there.
And we've been counted out many times, and now we're just proving everybody wrong.
Somebody trying to come after you, and they're going to give you their best.
You need to make sure SEC teams feel you. They need to feel you.
Yeah, I feel like all the pressure's on Georgia. We're ranked at 8, so we just want to keep climbing up the ladder. The odds are stacked against us. That's just how we want it, and that's just how we like it. Coming in this Saturday, we're going to try to shock the world.
All right, no pick from Herbie. He's going to go join Fowler and call the game shortly. You are picking. Who wins?
I tell you what, I was really confident when JT Daniels was the starter. I like Stetson Bennett. I think he can manage an offense, but this defense is one of the best. It's like college football version of the 85 Bears right now. So I got to go with the Georgia Bulldogs.
I like it, Desmond. They just played the battle hymn here. This crowd is rocking for a noon game. I think we're ready to go. And Herbie said this team needs to be elite, and this is a game they have to win, so I'm going with the Dogs.
Great pick, great pick. Where's Uga?
I don't think they didn't bring Uga up here.
Uga not here?
No, Uga's not here.
Let me talk to Uga anyhow. Uga, did you know that your offense in the last 3 games is averaging 52 points a game? Yeah. Where's Uga? Uga, did you know your defense is the #1 scoring defense in America? Yeah. Uga, did you know you're a 19-point favorite? I'm going with Uga's team. Give me that.
There he is. There you go. Hey, let's go.
He's got to be careful of, Chris, is just trying to make a play when it's not there. He's such a competitor.
Good hustle getting up here, by the way. You got the dual threat quarterback quick, so I appreciate it.
You got it.
Arkansas won the toss. They deferred, so you're going to see Bennett and that Dogs offense right away. Kickoff man for the Hogs is Vito Calvaruso, and he typically creates touchbacks, and this one is boomed way out to the back of the end zone, landed in the hedges. First quarter against the Hogs so far this season. Dogs instantly threatening. White draws a crowd as he gets a yard around left end. Grant Morgan, the tackling machine linebacker, was there. White through traffic into the end zone. Opening statement drive by Georgia. Right down the field to draw first blood. And they swarm. White this time. No gain. Switching numbers to be out there. Second and goal. I formation. Milton, and he just follows. Oh, they lost the ball. And he's in the end zone for a Georgia touchdown. All that beef. Not much Arkansas could do about it. Bauer, another punt from his own end zone. Here is Jackson near midfield. It's blocked! And Dogs fall on it for a special teams touchdown! Zamir White, the running back on the recovery.
Defensive lineman that Georgia has, and that's saying a lot because there's NFL players across the board up there.
Jefferson has time on play action, just checks it down to the flat. And it's a good move there. Rocket Sanders made a man miss it. He's still running. They thought they had him penned in.
That physicality there from the freshman.
Option after the 22-yard gain. They play with some tempo. Jefferson takes off on the keeper. Big fella rumbling into the secondary. Some big bodies over there. Jefferson runs it and breaks a tackle. Barrels over a couple of defenders and leans down to the 25-yard line. That shows you what he can do in the open.
So the reason they go real quick here with the quad is to get him over just a little bit. And by moving him over, it allows the center to get up and then enough room to get the first down. See and feel the continuity that they have built, the confidence they have.
White around the end. Now, Georgia fans have been wondering when this drive coming up, with all 6 so far have been runs. And White got away from that. That time they swarm him in the backfield. It's a 2-yard loss for McIntosh. To win a 10-3, you got to get out of the starting block. It's been hard. Jefferson on the run, a low throw, and a nice catch made there by Warren Thompson, but I don't think he'd be hugging him. Oh my goodness, slammed in the backfield. Kendall Milton met hard by Zach Williams.
Boy, that's a nice job of getting off blocks and being able to get into the backfield. Bringing those linebackers. Trey Williams just kind of uses defensive end, bends around the bigger Sawyer.
Second and 11. Bennett drops back. Clean pocket. Chooses to scramble. Scans the field, just throws it away.
That's Arkansas in a nutshell right there.
Saturday in the conference, beginning with a beatdown so far. 24-0 Georgia. Milton tries to get the edge. He's going to be cut down. It was Catalan. White zips a couple tackles, loses a shoe, and he gets dropped at the line of scrimmage by Trey Williams.
There's Trey Williams showing up. Second time we've seen him kind of flash. He's had a
11th play of the drive here. White knifing into the secondary, breaks the tackle, and dives for the end zone. Dogs pouring it on.
And see how Arkansas would respond. I think they'll put this game behind them pretty quickly. I want to see more how Arkansas responds with games that they have coming up. And they dropped 8, and it was like kryptonite to Matt Corral.
That's not Saban's world, but does he go down?
I said that on game day. I think you'll see that.
It is not his world. It's one thing for Georgia to beat you, but you don't need to help him. And I think that's what they're going to learn from in the film work that they do on Monday.
Last play of the game, Meeks makes the catch, and that's it. I agree. He knew how good Georgia was, but Pittman had to be deeply disappointed about how his team got rattled early and made it pretty easy for Georgia.
He's telling him, thank you for everything. And you got a really, really, really good football team.
Now, he owes a lot to Kirby Smart. He said he learned a lot about being a head coach from his time here in Athens. For Kirby, it was a speed bump. And they just flattened Arkansas, and they keep rolling now.
The noon kickoff, College game day, JT Daniels, game time decision. That face says it all. We were going to get Stetson Bennett. First drive for Georgia, handoff Zamir White. This thing was physical from the get-go. America lost their first virtual lock. They've got Arkansas plus the points, and this was decided early, Jeff.
Yeah, Zamir White's good between the tackles. James Cook good outside. Georgia, they established the line of scrimmage.
And what they established, it was going to be a running game, it was going to be physical, and it was going to be a beat down up front. Georgia early 7-0 lead. Next possession, Bennett finds
a pass play. Stetson Bennett.
I like it.
Yeah, 7 of 11 in this game. Only 7 completions for 72 yards, but it didn't matter.
Guys, really no need to throw it because you just line up. Quick huddle, Kendall Milton.
273 yards rushing, but check this play out again down by the goal line. Kirby Smart bringing in 2 defensive linemen. You got Jordan Davis, the 340-pound nose guard there on the right side, 99. Check out Jalen Carter, number 88 at fullback. He's going to block 3 Arkansas Razorbacks on this play and clear the way for Kendall Milton.
Guys, coming into the game, we knew Georgia's defense had allowed less than 6 points a game, 5.8.
They were pretty good.
They were dominant.
They really were, and this is the Arkansas team we watched go against Texas A&M last week. They were throwing the ball downfield, big plays. They were physical. Not today. This defense was too much.
You know what I love about Georgia? Offense, defense, special teams, and their best players play on special teams. Blocked, punt, recovered by Zamir White.
Funky punt formation by Arkansas. Big gaps up the middle, the offset snap. It's blocked there by Dan Jackson. Zamir White, the starting tailback, jumps on.
Guys, I should point out, that was just the first quarter. Arkansas hadn't allowed any points in the first quarter all season. 21-0 after the first quarter. After that, it was all dog all the time. Zamir White up the gut. Georgia blanks him 37-0. Afterwards, Holly Rowe with Kirby Smart, the victorious coach.
This was the biggest test you've had perhaps so far. Number 8 team coming in here playing well. What did your team do to dominate?
Patience. Remember we talked about patience?
You did.
So patience gives you the ability to recover from anything. And this is a good football team we beat. Okay, they got a really good football team. Sam's done a tremendous job, but so do we. And I'm so proud for the University of Georgia. And our fans today, Holly, they were elite. Because at 12 o'clock, they affected the game. And that's special.
Georgia, 5th team since 1950 to score 200-plus points and allow 25 or fewer points through its first 5 games, joining the 2001 Virginia Tech, 1993 Florida State, 79 Alabama, 56 Oklahoma. Florida State, Alabama, Oklahoma all won the national title that season. You want to talk about Georgia and their domination of Arkansas? What stood out to you?
You could talk about a lot of different areas of what they did in this game. And if you told me that JT Daniels didn't play and then Stetson Bennett played and he went 7 of 11 for 72 yards with no touchdowns, you would assume that Georgia struggled. But they didn't because of the run game. They had the ball for 13 more minutes in Arkansas because they were physical. You mentioned earlier they ran it for 273 yards, and it's the way they did it. They came out in the very first drive of this game and ran it down their throats and set the tone for the entire game. Look, you can have all the game plan you want. Arkansas comes in with a 3-2-6 defense, so they're smaller, they're quicker, they're faster. When you start running it down someone's throat, doesn't matter. The game plan is out the window because you can't get tougher during a game, and Georgia made sure of that early on and throughout the game that they're going to prove they're just a more physical football team.
And they absolutely stole the soul of Arkansas on this one. Still hard to believe they've only allowed 23 points throughout the entire season, and one of those was on a pick 6, so it really isn't even a mark against the defense. It's established Alabama and Georgia, the 2 best teams in the country.
Next week, Bama goes to A&M. Ole Miss hosts Arkansas, who potentially thought it had arrived at 4-0, sitting in the top 10 under Sam Pittman. What a run it has been for the Razorbacks, but they go to Georgia. JT Daniels doesn't play. He's been dealing with a lat injury. Stetson Bennett gets the start. Stetson Bennett only threw 11 passes because Georgia knew it could run the ball.
It was the same story, right?
Yes.
The same exact story we talked about with Alabama running against a 3-man front. That's what
the Arkansas defense presented, and Georgia took advantage.
Arkansas playing its first top 10 matchup in a decade, and it was not their day. KJ Jefferson, who's been dealing with a knee injury, gets sacked on a 3rd and 8, it looked like trying to run the ball, and then a 3-yard gain there for Zamir White. First down, Georgia. That was on 4th down. And on the next play, Bennett throws downfield for Kenny McIntosh and a gain of 27.
Yeah, it was a great wheel route right there. Look, they didn't have to throw the ball much today, but when they did, Stetson Bennett was on point. Isn't it nice to have a backup quarterback who used to be a starter?
Yeah.
Because he's playing like it.
1-yard run for Kendall Milton there.
Hey, hold on. Let's not gloss over the fact that Jalen Carter was at fullback right there. We saw Jordan Davis do it against Vanderbilt. This time, Jalen Carter gets a chance to play.
300-pound D lineman,
No
by
doubt.
the way.
Yeah, I think it just blocked 3 guys there. And then again, Jefferson on the draw. That is a tough ask for a quarterback that is not healthy against this defense on 3rd and 8.
Tough ask for any quarterback against this defense.
And then on the ensuing punt, Dan Jackson gets the block, and Zamir White recovers it for the score.
Yeah, you talk about selfless players. When was the last time we saw, and I'm asking this for real, a starting tailback on punt block? I don't see it.
Question. Yeah, you
Can't
don't
tell
really.
you. Don't see it.
21 zip, Dogs to the 3rd we go. 27 zip, Jefferson. Brought down by a couple of Dogs, including Nakobe Dean. Oh, goodness.
What a luxury, right? We can only rush a couple. You don't have to bring pressure and still get to the quarterback. That time they do. KJ Jefferson harassed multiple times today. 4 sacks for that Georgia defense and hurried all day long.
And you know what? You know a team is deep when 2 times in the highlight, you guys both say, what a luxury, and you're referencing numbers and depth that this team has. 4th quarter. 2nd and 1. Milton. Oh, a little spin. Oh, look at that tough run for Spill. Drags a pile 11 yards. 3 plays later, White, one of his 3 total touchdowns. That includes the punt recovery. Dogs run for 273 yards, get their 2nd straight shutout, 99-0 the last 2 weeks. They've run for over 500 yards in those games. They are on some sort of a roll.
We felt like it was important to play the game patient but aggressive. And I would have definitely thought there might have been 53 runs in this game, 57 runs, whatever there were, because that was the kind of game plan that we needed to approach it with. And you know what? It might be different next week. The best teams I've ever been around can take on the personality of what they need to take on. And I'm really proud of the offensive line. I'm proud of the offensive coaching staff who did an incredible job.
We knew going in, if they were going to try to play 3-down linemen, they're going to try to play dime personnel with 6 DBs on the field. We knew that they were just asking, they're basically challenging us. Can we run the ball? And they're saying we couldn't, and we said we could today.
All we told our defense all week is you ain't played nobody. And they went out and played, I don't know what they were, 26th, 30th. I really don't know. I know they had beaten 2 good football teams, and they went out and they shut those guys out. And you know what we're going to tell them next week? They ain't played nobody. So we're going to keep preaching to get better and grow.
Georgia has allowed 23 points in 5 games. That's 4.6 points a game. They've given up 1 touchdown by their defense. And they just held Arkansas 300-plus yards below their season average. What impresses you most?
Well, what impresses me most is the defense, particularly the front 7. And Dan Lanning has an opportunity now to have waves and waves of players up front in that front 7. It's like when you go to Baskin-Robbins, you get the sprinkles, you get the butterscotch. They get the whole thing on their Sunday. Let's take a look exactly what they got going on. Devontae Wyatt making a couple blockers miss, getting to the quarterback. You've talked a lot about Nakobe Dean, his ability to rush the passer. Jalen Carter, who I may think is the most talented defensive lineman of the group with relentless pursuit of the quarterback. And Jordan Davis, 350 pounds, running down a running back from behind, giving up maybe only a 1-yard gain, if that. There are just so many players in that front 7 that are talented. And most importantly, they play with great technique and understanding their assignments.
The last time they've given up this few points through 5 games, you saw that year, 1937. 1937. All right, so now let's say you guys are AP voters. You're in the media now. You're AP voters. And you got to turn in a ballot. Who in the world is your number 1 nationally?
I've turned my ballot in previous weeks, and it had Georgia at the top. I'm going to stick with that, although I think Alabama is much closer maybe than what I gave them credit for previously. But I didn't see anything from Georgia today that would indicate that they deserve to be dropped back, especially with their backup quarterback, as you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You would put Georgia 1. Chiz?
I will go with Alabama at 1 still. And again, I'll tell you why I'm a believer in Alabama, because every time we doubt them, every time we say, you know what, they're just not quite there, then they prove us all to be liars. And until somebody can step up to the plate and disprove that, I see a team that's played a Miami. Yeah, Miami isn't what they were, when we saw them at the beginning of the season. We've seen them do what they did today. We've seen, Ole Miss. You made the prediction right there. I see them getting better every week. I know their talent. They've got elite talent. They've got elite coaching. They've got a great quarterback. And so with you putting all of that together, it's hard for me to say that Alabama is going to be less than number 1 until somebody proves it.
Isn't that all you described, the same thing in Georgia's situation? All of those elite players, the elite quarterback who we didn't see today. I mean, I think all of those adjectives that you talked about are applicable to both of these teams, and it's interesting to see how similarly they are built and how similarly they produce.
They're similarly built. Go ahead, Chiz. I'm sorry.
You're right, because you're splitting hairs. But here's what I know. In championship moments, Alabama has come through and they've delivered in those moments. That's what I haven't seen Georgia do yet. Not that they won't, not that this year isn't the year they can, but I've seen Alabama do it over and over and over again.
I mean, the inarguable thing is if they continue to play like this, whatever happens in Atlanta when they collide, if that's the collision, should not matter. They're both going to the playoff. I mean, if that's the only loss either of them suffers, good luck trying to keep one of them out.